Welcome, friends, to the History with Tim podcast. We're doing a new setup today, much to Nick's enjoyment.
Yep.
We're going to be doing it for like this for now on, unless I have someone online. We're going to sit in these loafers, in these lazy boys?
I'd say armchairs.
They're armchairs, yeah.
Yeah, they're
nice.
armchairs.
They're comfy. With my beautiful globe. It's my baby. Nick was actually with me when we bought this.
Yep.
Actually, it's near where my girlfriend lives, where we got this from.
Oh, nice.
But today we're going to be discussing Operation Market Garden and specifically the movie A Bridge Too Far. So, Nick, if you want, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Nick. Been on the show a couple times, or a podcast a couple times now.
You are the generic guy. You're the one that's always on.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, we're gonna be watching and also critiquing and just overall adding our own thoughts and little quid bits to the movie, which directed by Richard Attenborough. Which funny, he actually got a lot of flack for making this movie. Granted, we'll probably be mentioning it throughout certain parts of the movie, just because of the way he portrayed it and because of his editor who also portrayed certain parts of the movie, which may or may not have been how historically it would have actually been. Certain parts in the movie have been altered. Mostly people's names, because of there were a lot of people who had the same name, and they wanted to make it a little bit more less confusing for the audience, and also the whole entire premise of the movie is based off of a massive. I would say it was a military blunder. It honestly should have sacked Monty's career. However, lucky for him, he was well favored after Egypt and essentially became.
Well, he also played the game pretty well to hide himself. Montgomery. Whereas
to be fair, in his defense, I will admit that
he was a politician. He was a very good
not
politician.
only that, but he also wasn't present for almost any of it. It was all his.
That's why he was smart. He hid in England.
Yeah, he was like, guys, I wasn't a part of this. It's
me?
It's like, but it has your signature, but it wasn't me. And
it's all Browning. Browning did this. This wasn't me.
Yeah, which
it should have sunk his career.
It honestly
should have. It would have sunk any other general's career.
And it's funny because we were talking about this literally 10 minutes ago, how Patton was sacked essentially for something that most Prussians and most Germans would have been like, are you serious? That's hilariously
Well, but
stupid.
at this point in the war, though, Patton is in charge of the Third Army, and he's pushing towards the Rhine. But you also have this situation where you have Montgomery and Patton, which it's so funny because in the intro, and that's going to be my first critique of the movie, is in the intro, it's like, Eisenhower's two best generals, Montgomery and Patton.
Yeah.
And it's like Montgomery and Patton were completely different officers. Patton was the commander of an army which he was actually subordinate to Omar Bradley, whereas Montgomery was the head of the British forces in Europe. So but also that just goes to show not only the military but the cultural control Patton really had, that he could be like, oh, this guy is just as important as the guy in command of all British forces.
See, I also view them as completely different, as in, like, I mean, to be fair, let's be honest, Patton essentially almost acted as like a hammer, whereas I'd say Monty was probably more of like a surgical tool.
Well, Patton was the father of the American tank. He was the Heinz Guderian of America. The interwar period, he spent, he was there for the bonus army, where they sent the tanks into D.C. to clear out the veterans demanding their money.
I'm pretty sure he was.
He was in command of those tanks that pushed the U.S. Army, the veterans from the First World War out. I think it's a very... Patton's a very interesting character of history. He really is. Yeah. He is a very suspicious death. He was very pro-attacking the Soviet Union, which is why he had a very suspicious death.
Honestly,
he's not even buried in the United States. He's buried in Germany. He never came home.
Yeah.
But Montgomery was smart about it, because I think Montgomery on the level knew it was going to fail.
Yeah.
He's like, literally the name of the movie is A Bridge Too Far. The U.S. Air Army, which was copying the Luftwaffe, because that's how they took Crete, I think, right? Or Malta? I think it was Crete, actually. It was the Greeks, I think.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Malta was defended by itself, because
Crete was defended by the English.
Yeah, I think it was Crete.
Yeah.
I mean, but they were both, I'm pretty sure, defended by...
I'm pretty sure the Luftwaffe attacked both of them. I think it was the Fallschirmjäger that
Yeah.
landed in both of them. But regardless,
I would have to check later, unfortunately.
Montgomery made the Allied Air Army, the First Air Army, which was made up of the British First Airborne, the 101st,
82nd.
82nd. There was another. Oh, and the tank divisions under the British, which that's the Market.
Yeah.
No, the Garden. That's Garden.
Garden,
Market
yeah.
is the Airborne. But Montgomery, I think, knew it was too much. It was too much to do. It was too much logistics.
Like I said, he really had nothing to do with this. He was actually holed up in his own quarters. I believe he was actually sick.
Sick.
Well,
well, he returned to London. He
returned to London. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I think it was
21st Army Group. That's what it's called. The Airborne Army.
But no, I'm pretty sure he had not dysentery. I'm trying to remember what it was. Could you look it up for me?
What is with all these... If it's dysentery, I'm going to laugh, because that's the same thing as freaking Lee at Cold
I mean,
Harbor.
I wouldn't really be shocked because...
all these military catastrophes happen because guys can't...
I could have sworn he had either some sort of sickness. Let me see.
Fun fact, Montgomery was actually one of the British officers that were sent to put down the Irish. Did you know that?
No, I did not know.
He was pro firing on crowds and shooting at civilian buildings. Montgomery, plan for Operation Markham was to outflank Siegfried Line. We both know this. So he knew it was a risky plan. He returned to... It doesn't say necessarily why he went back. It just says for personal reasons.
I could have sworn that they...
It would not shock me. You know what? There's an easy way to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate doing this, but I'm going to admit I'm doing this. ChatGPT. Why was Montgomery... Oh, I wasn't anything. Why was Montgomery not at Market?
To be fair, there has been documentaries where he's like, oh, he went back for personal reasons.
There's the Anglophile version, there's the real version.
Yeah, there's many different versions. There's the versions where it's like, oh, it gives him benefit of the doubt and says, oh, he was actually sick the whole time due to whatever. And then there was one where I think there was one documentary where it was like, oh, he had went back due to personal issues or whatnot, and then but it was family related, something to do with either him or his sister, who.
So this is saying that one of the reasons where he was at a command meeting with Churchill.
Okay.
But also, it looks like he planned it for when Market Garden was happening.
Yeah.
So regardless, he made sure he didn't have his hand on the trigger. He delegated that to General Browning, which I believe this movie kind of paints him in an unfair.
Yeah,
Frederick Browning,
and even the actor who actually portrays Browning, he was actually one of his aides, I believe, or he was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was one of his aides. And he later after this movie came out, he literally denounced it completely because he was like, this movie is doing incredible harm to what General Browning actually was and how he was portrayed.
A lot of these guys do. Look at Zulu. John, what's his name? Who the hell? Stanley Baker.
Oh.
Because in South Africa, because of apartheid, they wouldn't let the Zulus actually go to the movie. So he said, I'm not seeing this freaking movie. But then he got banned from South Africa because he was an open socialist. So he wasn't allowed to go to the premiere either, I think.
I mean, that's what happens if you become a socialist. I'm sorry. I'm somewhat...
Well, especially in that era.
Yeah.
But
anti-communist here. Sorry, off track.
If you're an American, you should be anti-communist, personally.
Yeah.
But pretty much, Market Garden, there was two tactics that were being used. There was the Patton tactic, which Patton was actually. It kind of is true that Patton was the one behind it because he was kind of the one pushing Omar Bradley, being like, Bradley, let me do this. Let me just push. He was pushing towards the Rhine. Because he had recognized that the Germans had stripped most of their forces to go fight the Russians. Yeah. Because to the Nazis, the Russians were a bigger concern.
Which, I mean, in some aspects is very much true.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could kind of funnel America and the Allies.
In the words, not real words, of JoJo Siwa, because she didn't write that song, karma's a bitch. Karma's a...
But to be fair, you could actually say that the Americans and the other allies were kind of funneled into an area where it was easier to defend against them than it was to have to worry about them. Whereas the Russians, they were uncommon, and
the Russians were there was
we gave them so much to just do. We were actually researching this earlier. We gave them 4,102 tanks, which, to be fair, only I think 3,600.
1,002
Sherman tanks.
That doesn't include Churchills. That doesn't include Stuarts.
That does include a lot of vehicles, which we were looking that up as well.
100,000 locomotives.
But 3,664 Shermans actually made it to combat, and that's a lot of tanks. I mean, modern day, I'm pretty sure we can only field maybe. I'm pretty sure we can only field around half that. Realistically speaking, but
this is also a different situation.
Yeah.
This is a world war, and also we hadn't been actually engaged in it.
Yeah.
We talked about the New Deal and Roosevelt, taking us out of the Depression. It wasn't really policy that took us out of the Depression. It was military contract.
Yeah.
Because we weren't in the war in 40. We weren't in the war in 39, because the Russians were getting the Soviets were getting the tanks up until I think 40. When the Germans invaded, that's when we started giving them.
I'm pretty sure long past that. I'm pretty sure up to 40.
Also,
but
it doesn't take 20 minutes to build a tank. We were producing these because we saw what was coming.
And to be fair, we were also producing 45 Shermans. I believe was the amount every day.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah,
and that was the whole thing about Pearl Harbor. Why they say that Roosevelt knew it was coming and ignored it because he wanted an excuse to get into the war.
That one, I think
that's the most debunked. That's fact. That's not even a conspiracy anymore. It's very clear that Roosevelt wanted to be in the war.
It's funny because even back, if you watch actually a lot of historical documentaries, you'll say that essentially throughout every time that there was an incident, the American press and the president was essentially trying to get the public on board with the war, and it's hilarious to see that back then versus now, just political wise. Yeah. But you saw that happening multiple times, but the problem is the people were literally like, no, we're against it because we saw what happened during World War I. We don't want this. It needed to be a specific type of event for us to actually be engaged into the war.
Yeah. So. You know what I've never gotten about this scene? How they make it look like he's arriving to the scene? Gerhard von Rundstedt was the commander of the Western Front the whole time. I don't understand why they're having him arrive here. I'm coming here because all you guys screwed up. He was the one he's the reason him and Rommel arguing with Keitel and Model and all them. He's the reason the Panzers got withheld at D-Day.
True, but to be fair, it makes it. I think it came more from a movie perspective, just to set up the scene.
Drama to it. Yeah. I also really like how they have all these different units. You have there's a Kriegsmarine.
Yeah,
there's a Navy guy.
That one made no sense to me every time I see it
because throwing everyone in. They didn't know what else. They're like.
True, but even still though, Kriegsmarine wouldn't have been under their jurisdiction.
No, they would have been under Dönitz.
Yeah, and Dönitz would have been like, no, they're staying on the U-boats because we need some sort of protection.
Well, and at this point, they were only holding a slither of the North Sea left.
Because I'm pretty sure at that point, because they entered the war with 116, 140, something like that U-boats.
I know they.
No.
They bypassed the Treaty of Versailles.
They were supposed to have more. I know
far. that. Because that was something that. I think Churchill was they're breaking the treaty. And
57 U-boats. They were supposed to have around 300.
By the end.
Yeah. But that was, I believe, so let's see. By March 1941, the countermeasures were so effective that essentially they started destroying U-boats faster than they could make them.
Well, that was the same thing like the planes. They had more than enough. It's crazy when you look at the German logistics at the end of the war. Because they actually had, we were talking about the STG-44.
Yeah.
Those weren't mass produced, but they had Panzers divisions ready. They had aircraft ready. They just didn't have the gas or oil to use it.
Or the manufacturing to mass produce a large
ammunition. They didn't have to. They couldn't.
And that's one of those things where the issue with I think Germany and Bad Man, H-Man,
Are we going to do that? We're doing the bad man?
You never know.
We're not just going to say his name?
I mean, at this point... but
we all know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Seriously. We all know who we're talking about.
But no, so, I mean, the issue is that he kept wanting to push for wonder weapons. And the problem is special weapons can make a great difference. The problem is you need enough of them. You need to be able to actually effectively utilize them.
You can't be building these wonder weapons in the middle of a war that you're losing.
Like, the only reason why the weapons that they had made worked great was because it was during the peace. And
look at the P-38. The P-38 was one of the best handguns. Walther made some of the best guns.
Debatable on my personal taste.
Well, the 1911
it was
a superior handgun. Period. The fact that we were using those up until Vietnam says everything we need to know about the.
Well, that and also because we mass produced them in such quantity. At that point, the government was just like, "Yeah, we're fine. We've got handgun at home, and this handgun is it's worth."
We have handgun here. We could use handgun here.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, why? I mean, to be fair,
I'm pretty sure the British also were using 1911s.
I believe
they were using Tommy guns.
Yeah, but they also used a bunch of their own stuff. They used the Webley still.
Well, to be honest, we were
they
just
used other guns.
Well, I think that all of them used Webleys in this.
Yeah,
I think James Caan's the only guy I actually see with the 1911.
Yeah, which I mean, to be fair, I as much crap as I give to the British and some of their firearms they're awful, but they're great, and I mean that in the most sincere, personable way. So, like for instance, the Sten. The Sten's
a very good gun.
It's a great gun. It's an
gun.
awful gun, but it's a great gun. And what I mean awful, I mean it's just aesthetically. It's not aesthetically pleasing.
Oh no, it's a hideous gun. It's a mass-produced gun.
Yeah, it's a simple gun. It works, and that's all it needed to do. And it did fantastic for what it needed.
Well,
to do.
The gun shop up in that place I went to.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Enfields and stuff, and the Indians, for the longest time, because World War II reenacted, and I thought I had a Lee Enfield. I didn't. I did French resistance. It was just easier. I didn't want to wear the webbing. The Americans have. It's such a freaking.
Yeah.
There's 2 times I was an American in reenacting, and it was brutal. Like Civil War reenacting, I thought was rough. World War II, the amount of straps those guys wore, sucked. Yeah. Civil War, it's just this, and then 2 more things. World War II, it's.
Could be worse if you wore the German uniform. That's nothing but. Cotton.
I've never been a German, so I'm proud to say that, and I've never been a Confederate. But no, but we for the longest time there was an Enfield, which would make sense because a lot of the French resistance. What happened was the British dumped their excess weapons into the occupied countries to be used as resistance weapons. Yeah. Like the guys that tried to kill Heydrich, well, they did kill him. Actually, they really didn't technically. He died of infection, but they had a Sten, and it misfired. But that was just because I think they screwed it up. Sorry
to just to interburst. So, the funniest thing that me and Tim were talking about was and it just had popped up onto the screen for us was Gene Hackman in this movie has the most hilarious accent, and we've debated this. I've watched linguists actually rip him apart on this one because it makes no sense. It legitimately Susbosky. Had a decent English, like he was able to speak English relatively well, and not with a weird accent. I don't understand where Gene Hackman came with this accent.
I'm telling you, Richard Attenborough was definitely like, we need to differentiate who's English, who's American, and who's Polish. So even though Sobieski sounded like a normal guy, I need you to just sound as psychotic as. I need you to sound honestly, like Jan Sobieski from the Winged Hussars.
Like honestly, at this point, it makes no that's the only thing that could make sense. Is
my favorite part?
Is that his accent is just insanely crazy. I've met people who are from Poland and they speak perfectly fine English.
I used to she was Polish. She was a Polak. Sorry.
I know plenty of people who are Polish from Poland, and they can speak perfectly fine English. Like if any accent they have, it's more of an English accent and not a crazy accent that Gene Hackman has in the movie.
I'm telling you, they were.
He must have.
It was Richard definitely sat down because Gene Hackman did his research on Sobieski.
Oh yeah.
You know he did, and he definitely sat down and he's like, I know you want to do this.
Honestly, though, it makes sense too because like I had mentioned earlier, they actually changed a couple of the people's names.
Well, they had to because they sound too similar.
Yeah, and it would confuse way too many people.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not enough into the history and you're just like, that makes no sense. That's not the correct person. It's like they had to just change his name because it was too closely related to this person's name, and we'd all confuse it, especially watching a movie.
I hate
Let's be
Marvel
honest.
so much. He just has such a freaking his face annoyed on him.
It's the classic Prussian imperialistic,
Dude, Oh my god. And I'm a Prussian stan, you know that.
I know.
I love the Prussians, but oh my god, his face, I want to punch him in the head. No, but another thing I actually really like about this is you see the animosity between the Wehrmacht and the SS.
That is
which
true.
I don't think enough World War II movies show. Like,
Yes.
Valkyrie shows it, but that's literally a movie about them trying to kill Hitler.
Yeah.
But, like, Bad Man, sorry.
H-man.
H-boy.
H-boy.
H-dog. H-dog, sorry. But, like...
And it is true. I think
SS
a lot of
was
people...
despised by the regular army.
Well, I think it's because a lot of people don't realize that... I mean, so...
They were a political organization, first of all.
It's like the difference between... It's like, okay... I would honestly compare it similar kind of to... It's like, okay, you have the ROTC... And then you have, like, the actual army.
Oh, my God, that's such
They rip each other.
That's such a good way to put it.
Because at the end of the day, it's like the ROTC, it's like, yeah, it's an officer program, but at the same time, the army guys...
Some of those in JROTC and all the guys
yeah, like
army
the JROTC...
hated him.
Like, the army guys... There's some guys who it's like, okay, they're decent human beings, and they understand... It's going to be a little bit more difficult to come to into a position of power above guys who have worked and done stuff more than you and have faced actual combat. And then
Dude, that's such a good way to put it.
Like, the difference I would say, though, is it's like a German difference. It's like the SS, they're just fanatically crazy.
Yeah, but that also makes them scarier than the regular German army.
True.
Because the Wehrmacht, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm a soldier, I'm doing my duty.
Yeah.
Quotes. The SS, they believed it. They're like, we're doing this. We're to the
and it was the same thing with the trials. They literally were like, yeah, but we saw no issues with this.
Dude, that movie Nuremberg I watch all the time with Alec Baldwin and Brian Cox. That scene, which oh my god, what's his name? That freaking Colm dude. He's the old guy. He plays Rudolf Haas, the commandant of Auschwitz, and there's this scene where he's talking to the doctor.
Yep.
And you know the scene I'm talking about.
Oh, I know the
where
exact
he's like,
scene.
Does a rat catcher feel bad catching rats? It's like, it's crazy that they believed it. Like, that's what makes them that much scarier, though, is how zealots they were. Yeah. Because, the Wehrmacht, at the end of the day, I'm a soldier. My options are I die here or I fight and go home. Those guys, when the Soviets announced that, like, Keitel and Jodl surrendered, those guys were just offing themselves.
It's one of those things where they just could not fathom or understand because it was a giant leap of logic, and I mean,
it was demigodness.
It was such a
thought he was a god.
It was a fanaticism on a whole nother level, which. And the scary thing is, I don't think people understand how easy it is to get to that level. It really is.
Not to get into politics, but look at today. People,
the
fanaticisms on both sides.
Yeah,
literally on both sides.
I laugh when I see both sides, and I'm just like, you guys are psychos.
No, they're lunatics. Like both sides. This person can't do anything wrong. This person.
It's like this person clearly.
They're human.
Yeah.
Even Jesus was human. Like, I can look at things Jesus did and be like, okay, that's what a human would do. Yeah, all right, The guy got arrested for trashing the temple.
Yeah.
Like, he's human. People are human. But that's what's scary is people don't do that. When they were tearing the statues down, people were like, why are you praising these people? I'm like, I'm not praising them. It's memorizing them. It's so we don't forget them.
Yeah.
Like, Robert E. Lee was one of the biggest people that was against building statues.
Yeah.
But the whole point of building that statue is a reminder of, let's not do this again.
Yeah.
This was a bad idea. Especially because he was one of the biggest outspoken people against secession.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it just came down to homes. But I mean,
and he literally lived right across the river.
Yeah. All right, moving back to the movie, everybody.
Yeah, we really got on track.
So, currently, See, this is one of those also.
This is a great scene.
Yeah, this is a great scene. So it's the scene where General Sosabowski and also General what's his name?
I got you.
It's
Sean Connery.
It's Sean Connery's character. Every time I see Sean Connery, I just go, it's Sean Connery, or it's James Bond.
Major General Roy
Eckhart. Yeah.
Eckhart. Yeah.
It was on the tip of my tongue. I was going to get there eventually, but they're looking over the flight plans of where they're going to land, where they're going to be able to stage once they hit the ground. And it's funny because we were talking about this, how one of the British Air Force, I would assume captain or general or whoever it is, who's going over the flight plans and locations.
He's probably like a lieutenant. He's probably a reconnaissance officer.
But yeah, and we were talking about how, I swear to God, they made him to look as pompous and as like, as
he's the I almost gave his my tea.
Yeah, like they almost almost like they.
England are gonna hate this.
I know.
I
feel bad for them.
Whole video.
But like legitimately speaking,
it's so easy to do so though. It's so easy.
And I'll give credit. I love drinking tea, and that's probably one of the only aspects.
I think that's you and me strictly drink tea.
Yes, but no, like they made like he has a gap in his teeth, and I don't want to rip apart this
mustache.
The handlebar mustache,
which to be honest, the guy probably did in real life have a handlebar mustache.
He probably did. It was the 70s, but I mean the way it was portrayed in the 50s.
During World War II, the guy who's portraying probably did have a.
But like they just made it. It seemed like they went over and above of like trying to give themselves a general who looked, or a Air Force commander who just went overboard in my opinion.
This is such a crazy cast, man.
I know.
You got Dirk Beauregard, Edward Fox. Edward Fox and Richard Attenborough work a lot together because he plays the British officer in Gandhi. They're like, what would you have done if you got the vehicles through? And he's like, I would have used them. And you're just like, you sick. Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins. Michael Caine. I like to talk about Domhnall Gleeson. I think he's a really good Domhnall Gleeson. Elliot. He's the guy that plays Marcus in Indiana Jones, and he's he's Henry Poulain in Zulu Dawn.
Also, what's his name? Who's
Elliot Gould.
Yeah, Elliot Gould.
Robert Redford.
James
Caan. John Ratzenberger's in this movie. How did Pixar's like, yo, get us co-signed on this. Gene Hackman, and to be honest, the German actors are actually very known actors in Germany. Wolfgang Price, Walter Kuhut, Hardy Kruger, but also these are guys that all they did was play.
Yeah.
Laurence Olivier's in this, which I think is that really Laurence Olivier? Oh my God, I did not realize the doctor was Laurence Olivier. The guy that did you? I did not know that. That's nuts.
Well. Like our friend had mentioned, this was essentially like almost the Avengers, but in the 70s. Like it had all the biggest actors, like all the male biggest actors of the time period. Also,
Richard Attenborough, just so you guys know who that is, because we keep saying his name. Jurassic Park. What's his name in Jurassic Park?
I cannot remember.
Oh my God, I'm gonna feel like an idiot because it's like one of his most famous roles. He was mainly a director though. He really wasn't an actor.
Yeah.
He's in Miracle on 41st Street though.
I love him in that one.
John Hammond.
Yep, John Hammond.
I feel like an idiot.
Oh, I don't know if YouTube is okay with me showing labels on, so I'm not gonna show labels. Better safe than sorry.
They can't see anything from our waist up.
Perfect.
I feel stupid that I put on my shorts. I should have just kept my
I don't know why you did.
No, but you know what? Back on this whole thing though, the Polish were also upset around Market Garden because that's when the
Warsaw
Polish resistance told them the Warsaw Uprising was going to happen.
Yeah.
Which I do have a video on the channel, and I'll leave a link in it.
Yep.
It's about it's actually Sabaton's song too. It's such a good song. Oh my God! And they got Peter Storman in it. He plays the SS commander. That poor guy, I feel like always plays such villainous characters. I mean, he literally played the devil. In constant
downside to being like typecast. I mean, he has one of those. He is actually, yeah. You're right.
He gets eaten. Because he's a bad guy.
Yep.
No, but
so this is not to interject, but the movie it shows this is the scene with the radios and whatnot Honestly, what you should do is like a little overlay of random scenes from the movie.
Man, I could do that.
But so it's the
let's do baby steps. We finally got the chairs going.
Yeah, so it's the part where it has the radios and they're talking about how it won't work or whatnot. The radios actually worked perfectly fine.
Wasn't it just they weren't long?
The problem is they didn't work because they were too far away from each other. And it was one of those issues where
the landings completely fell apart. No one went where they were supposed to do. They were doing it in daylight. The Germans opened. This is why you don't do
day raids,
day airborne invasions, because every German in Holland saw them coming.
Yeah, it's like, oh look, people, point gun up and fire. Like it made sense in certain aspects,
Holland
but
is where everyone that was in northwestern France was. So you had
they all retreated to one area.
Yeah,
and guess what? Now they're concentrated in one area, and it made it worse.
That's why you have von Rundstedt there. That's why you have Model. All these high rank. These are big guys in the German army.
Yep.
That's why they're all there. Is because they're trying to reform. Hitler, I think, sent 2 or 3 Panzer divisions to support them.
It's been too. I
know they moved them to the Bulge because when Bradley stopped the army, oh my god, I hate this scene. It drives me nuts.
I know. So we're on the scene where
they're showing them hidden tanks.
Yeah, they're trying to show them the tanks, and they're trying to. There's a aide trying to stop the whole operation. And so the character who is showing it's based off of an actual person who. He made a actual large amount of noise to try and stop it, but the problem is a lot of operations were essentially being halted and stopped due to other bad intelligence, and they kind of wanted to...
They also make it in the movie, like Browning was the one that kept shutting him up.
And Browning was not.
Yeah, Montgomery told him to shut up.
Yeah, because, like I said, a lot of things were getting canceled because... It's like, oh, intelligence is saying that there's tanks here or there's people here because, and the problem is there wasn't because the Germans were moving them out of the area or moving them in, and
the sad thing was
it was very fluid. It was a very fluid situation.
When you boil it down, though, the sad thing is Montgomery pretty much said, "I don't want a repeat of Sicily," because the British were supposed to take Palermo, but Patton found a loophole in his command. They said, do not go up the East Road and take Palermo. He said, okay. He went up the West Road and outran the British. And when the British marched into Palermo, the entire U.S. Army was waiting for them.
Yeah, just going, hey, Jerry. Hey.
So pretty much, and this is what's so disgusting and sad about this, is this literally was pretty much Montgomery saying, I don't want a repeat of Sicily. I want to be the first one into Germany.
And the problem with that is you literally get situations where you're putting tens of thousands of guys at risk of...
Sorry to interrupt, but the Belgians are so lazy. And that's speaking as a Belgian. Like, everything's Leopoldsville.
I mean, they had one really good famous guy, and it worked.
And then they had one really bad one. I think it's like... No, I think it's 3 Leopolds.
I can't remember.
I don't know. Continue what you're saying, though, before I said that.
I lost track. It's okay. I mean, one of my personal favorite scenes. So I actually love this actor from I forget what other movie he does. Yeah,
he's the guy. He's Gandhi. He's the guy that plays the general.
That and also
he is in a lot.
Well, he was in a lot of older movies.
But he's in
he plays an assassin
in the De Gaulle movie, the Jackal, the Jackal or something like that. That's actually a great movie.
I love that movie.
The guy that plays De Gaulle looks just like De Gaulle too.
I know.
Wild. De Gaulle, fun fact, was actually universally hated by everyone, including the French.
Yep.
And yet they elected him like 12 times to be president of France.
Classic French move. It's like, we hate this guy, but we're going to elect him.
Well, De Gaulle...
And then we're going to complain about him.
I'm going to give De Gaulle... De Gaulle was actually one of the only French generals that actually were holding back the Germans.
Yeah.
And he was yelling up the chain of command. He's like, we need to take the fight to them.
He also literally... He advocated for the same style of tank units as the Germans.
He wanted a French blitzkrieg.
Yeah, he wanted the exact same way that the Germans would go in. And he was about to he literally was essentially going to get it, but the problem is the Germans had already invaded
also,
at that point.
you had the French government surround themselves with World War One heroes like Pétain, who Pétain would get, his Pétain actually really didn't get his comeuppance. Pétain kind of, there's this movie called De Gaulle, which is actually, I think, a very interesting movie because you actually look at the psyche of Pétain. Now, I'm not going to defend Pétain, what he did during, after, when France.
I will never defend Pétain, so it's all good.
I'm going to defend his perspective during the invasion.
Yeah.
They lost an entire generation in World War One.
You're not wrong. I will give credit to that.
And he said, he's like, De Gaulle, if we listen to you, how many more men are going to have to die?
True.
So
it was the same thing with Churchill. It's like, sir, we are defeated. There was when it came to Churchill saying, "Continue the fight, we will help you." It's like, dude, we're defeated. We lost all of our the most of our men in World War One, and all of our guys are surrounded and about to be executed.
Yeah,
we're just gonna surrender and just take a loss.
Take the L.
Take the L. And the downside is it was a big L. It was one of the biggest L's in history.
I think the thing too is
it was kind of a needed one. Though.
And like I said, I'm not going to defend Pétain's decision. I'm not going to defend the Vichy government. I'm not going to defend what he did to France. I'm a Francophile. I love French history. It was terrible.
Yeah.
He did what the Nazis told him to do. But watching that movie and reading a little bit about the whole situation he was in, I can understand why that was his perspective. Because Pétain, he was "vous ne passez pas," they shall not pass. He's Verdun. He's the Seine. He witnessed the slaughter.
Yeah.
And he's looking at De Gaulle and he's like, "You're psychotic. We're gonna lose more people. There's gonna be countless deaths for no reason. Let's just call it a day."
Yeah.
And to be honest, he actually didn't really have the authority to surrender France. Fun fact. The French president had just fled, and he was just the only one left in the Tuileries when the Germans got to Paris.
Almost reminds me of Donitz with the Russians at the gate.
Oh my god, that video.
Hail Donitz?
Yeah. Can I just get one hail Donitz?
Can I just get one? Hail Donitz.
Thanks, guys. That's about. Thanks, guys. Who are those guys? Are actually really funny. They're the baddie guys too.
Yeah.
Are we the baddies? But why skulls? No, but it's De Gaulle was very disliked though. Because he had an arrogance about him.
Yeah.
He had a very big arrogance about him, and people did not like it.
It's funny. It almost seems to me that almost every hero per se, or every main almost guy throughout history though has always had some sort of either air of arrogance or some sort of hilarious faults that really set them apart.
Well, he was angry because he went to London to try to become the new head of state for the Free French, and they were like, "Yeah, that's fine. You can be the head of state." But who did they name the actual commander of the French army under the Free French? Because it wasn't him, and he was furious. Let me see. Give me a second. I think they let him be... Oh, geez, sorry. They let him be the political leader, but they wouldn't give him the military, and I think that enraged him.
Yeah.
Who was it, though? Oh, my God. This poor guy's been lost to history for obvious reasons, because De Gaulle made sure of it.
Yeah.
I know how to look it up. Just look up the day. Which, that just passed.
Yeah.
Some funny things happened.
Which, speaking of D-Day, I was actually watching a documentary on a lot of the special tanks from D-Day, the DD Valentine. I believe it was the DD Valentine or variant. So during D-Day, they wanted to make sure that they could actually safely try and get as many tanks, and a lot of the tanks had this hilarious, almost like a bath. It looked like almost like giant bathtubs essentially, but they were specialized rigged tanks that could actually float and get safely to shore. It was quite entertaining. But yeah, they had a test one from the British Mark, I think it was Mark II, or it was the British Valentine. They had one, and then they chose to go with the American Shermans instead because they were a little bit better and safer to actually get to shore. In the video I was watching, the guy actually has one of the last Valentine that is actually water capable variant, because I think one of them ones actually unfortunately sank when they were testing it, which ended up killing, I believe, all 6 of its crew.
Yeah, they drowned.
Yeah.
I can't remember this guy's name. I'm a little upset.
But yeah.
Oh, this scene. This poor freaking guy. This didn't happen.
Yeah, no. This is all fictitious, but it was based off of the... So it's the scene where the aide is trying to stop it, and he gets confronted by a military doctor, and he's essentially broken down in tears, and
they're trying to call him crazy.
Yeah, and he's like, literally like, you should go on vacation, and the whole point is they're playing off of like, oh, you know, you're crazy and this is gonna happen, and he doesn't want any part of it. Which in real life, the guy actually made a huge whole entire shtick of it, and
I think it got all the way to Churchill.
Went far. It literally, it's the reason why people got sacked from this, because of what happened. It was not a pretty sight.
But the thing was, you couldn't sack Montgomery. Like, you can't sack the hero of North Africa.
Yeah, no. It politically and morally speaking, you couldn't sack Montgomery because you didn't want to lose your few heroes that you had left. I get it from a political propaganda perspective.
Because who's Browning? You know, no one really knows who Browning is.
Yeah,
no one cares. It'd be the same thing. You know, Omar Bradley today is a famous general.
Yeah.
If Eisenhower sacked Bradley, no one would have cared.
Yeah.
And honestly, had Teddy Roosevelt Jr. not been who he was, no one would have cared if he got sacked.
Yep.
The only reason people cared about Patton getting sacked is Patton was a good field commander.
Yeah.
And he made all the papers, you know.
And he made things happen. He got things done.
He turned back the Africa Corps.
Yeah.
Not Rommel, because Rommel had already been transferred.
Yeah.
Which he was furious to find out.
I would be too. I'm not gonna lie. If you had your own highly trained guys at tank warfare, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere and just essentially slaps them and goes, "I'm in charge." The movie
Patton is probably one of the single most accurate movies of World War II, with the exception of George C. Scott's voice.
I'd say Das Boot's the most accurate. But
well, I mean about like a biography.
Biographic.
Like, about like someone like Patton.
Yeah, biographically speaking, Patton's probably one of the most accurate movies.
But like, what I mean is, the only thing that wasn't accurate is his voice.
Yeah,
because he had a very high Southern accent. His actually fun fact about Patton: his uncle was at Gettysburg. He was in the 7th Virginia. He was a colonel. He got killed at Pickett's Charge, but he talked like this. Talk like that.
See, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't have been able to.
Imagine that man coming into a tent and slapping you. Can you imagine? What are you doing here, coward? What are you doing?
Which I'm not gonna lie, that would be funny.
I just lost the entire South of this YouTube channel. I just lost every Southerner that likes this channel.
Oh well, sorry.
No, that's it. That is sad because I think they're the majority of the viewers.
I mean,
thank you for the Longstreet video still going strong.
Yep.
Thank you for the Longstreet.
But no,
2 years still the highest rated video.
Good.
No, but
who? Yeah, which so we need to actually get back onto the movie.
We keep diverting.
I know.
From this movie.
Which, you know, it's funny. We were talking about this earlier. Every time we watch one of these movies, we instantly go, "We need to podcast this," because we start going off on tangents about every aspect of the movie, from the planes to the actual like guns, or to every aspect of it. Even the uniforms we were talking about.
Oh, they're so good.
They're
so accurate.
The only thing I like
I just hate the German one.
I know.
But that's also an accurate thing. I don't know why that was. Because even if you look at, like, during the Napoleonic era, the Prussian generals wore the red collars. So I don't understand where, because what it looks like are colonel bars that the field marshal wears, and it's not a one-off thing, because Hindenburg wore the same uniform.
And what kills me the most is, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, Germans are very, like, accurate, like, they're very accurate people, as in, they probably would, and they probably
there has to be a reason.
They probably were complaining in the movie about like, so this isn't exactly what we'd wear. And I know, like, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying, I know German people, and every time like you make a mistake, they are the first ones to point out and say that's not accurate.
This scene's so good.
Oh yes, and what's funny is I actually
soundtrack's so good.
So it's the scene where all the planes are taken off.
And they filmed this on site in Holland.
Yeah.
So can you imagine like you're
seeing all those C-47? Then not C-47.
This literally took place 30 years after it actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine you're like in your 60s and you go outside and you just see.
It's almost like the scene in Napoleon where
in Waterloo and the French army's marching across the river and the people come out and they're like, what the
It's like the whole Russian army's moving on my house. What do I do?
Like, oh my god, it's so good though, dude. It's so good. The glide. That's something that is another thing that I'm shocked they did in this. Because I feel like in The Longest Day, they don't really show gliders. And gliders were a big part of the
The problem with The Longest Day, I think it was just more technical. Whereas,
it was an older movie.
And yeah, it was that. Because Longest Day was only made, what? Fucking, I'm sorry, excuse my language. But made like, what, 10 years after the actual war, if that.
It was very close because people were very upset at first because they didn't want to have the German perspective.
Which
the German perspective is hysterical in it.
1962, so it was actually it would have been what 10 years before this movie.
Less than 10 years than the actual D-Day.
Yeah. No, it was
62 to 40.
Yeah. So
no, 62,
20 years. 20 years.
Less than 20 years since actual D-Day. So they were veterans alive that probably. I think they actually did bring in some veterans. They brought in what's his name?
Yeah, they would.
What the frig's his name?
A lot of people's.
Yeah, but the guy Anthony Hopkins plays.
Oh, Frost. Yes.
Because Frost said he's like when Anthony Hopkins was running.
He's like, "What are you doing? I wouldn't have run. I would have insulted the Germans by just casually walking to my men."
An officer must be calm.
Yes.
In chaos.
Which
that's such an English thing.
I know.
So
like as much crap as I give to the English for their hilarious, awful military ideas, like and by that I mean like they kept doing the artillery march for as long as they could, even up into World War II, until they realized this doesn't work because it's insane.
The British, when I was setting up my kit. That in reenacting, that's what you call your gear, your uniform, and everything.
Well, that's what you would call in the
military too.
It's called your kit. Your gear is your kit.
I have 4 kits for Civil War. I have New York.
Yep.
Volunteers, which is Excelsior jacket. I have Sackcoat kit, which is if I want to play Iron Brigade or Western Brigades.
Yep.
My regular Sackcoat, which is regular Union Army kit, and then my 14th Brooklyn kit, which is the red.
Yeah.
But then World War II, I only have 1 kit, which is my French Resistance kit. But I have British Army boots in that kit which I have a story about the Battle of the Bulge when I did that reenactment. My God. Yeah. But these boots are the most difficult things to put on and take off. I stepped in a pile of mud and it ripped it off in the middle of the winter. It was awful. But the British Army boots I wear, they were using them as far back as the British invasion of Afghanistan, like in the 1850s. Like, the British only recently, I think in the Falklands, stopped wearing those boots.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The British
are stubborn.
The British are very stubborn people, and I'll give credit to that. And it's quite hilariously entertaining to me, at least, because they do some of the most craziest, stupidest things that you've ever seen. It's like, oh, we're in the middle of war, but we have to have tea. I'm sorry, you're in the middle of war. Like all the British tanks.
Well, that's
all
something.
The modern British tanks have kettles specifically so that they can have their own tea.
Yeah, but to be honest, in the movie, in that scene, that did happen, but that wasn't the only reason.
Well, that didn't happen at that moment. It happened later.
But also, that wasn't the only reason they stopped.
Yeah, no, they stopped for many reasons. They
didn't know if the road was clear.
Yeah,
because they were traveling down a single road.
Yeah, and the problem with this movie is like most movies. You have to take liberties. You have to take liberties, and you also have to condense all of this history into one movie. And I'll give credit; they did a somewhat decent job of trying to compact all this military history into one. What is it? No, that's a 3-hour movie, isn't it?
It's almost 3 hours. Yeah, 2 hours and 57 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 50 some odd minutes. Regardless, they had to jam pack this whole entire event, which took place over multiple days. And honestly, let's be honest,
17th to the 24th, I believe,
yeah,
of September.
It took a lot longer than 2 hours and 57 minutes, and they compacted it all into one movie.
Gettysburg was 3 days, and they did that in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I was close. 17th to 25th.
Okay. I find it.
I hate this already. I hate.
Yeah,
English.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to my English fans and my brother-in-law because I know he's watching this and I know he's not technically English.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's an insult to say.
Well, he has no country. Technically, the Irish don't accept him either. But boom roasted.
Scout sign.
But
Sorry, we're scouts.
But life of life over here.
Yeah.
But this, and it's so funny because we actually in the Civil War we were doing that, but we weren't really doing this. We were just like that.
Yeah, we were lazy. Yeah, it was more of a.
Because it made you a target.
Yeah.
Grant actually ordered. That's actually. Have you ever heard that story about Grant?
Possibly.
So it's this really cool story. I don't know how true it is, but
probably not at all. Then it's usually how it goes. But
true.
Regardless, if it's a good story.
What happened was Grant. I think it was during the Overlands campaign, like when he came to the east and was fighting with Meade. He was walking towards a watering hole, and every soldier, you know, they had a rifle, they presented arms. If they didn't, they saluted. And he said, "Stop saluting me. You're gonna make me a target." Because Grant would wear a sack coat, so people wouldn't recognize him, which was smart.
Yeah, especially because during that time,
you become the commander of the entire Union Army.
And during that time, the Confederates had a very
a lot of them were actually accidental. They didn't even mean to kill a lot of them.
It was accidental, but the problem is how does the Union tell if it's an accident?
I mean, that's valid. Well, Reynolds was an accident.
Yeah, Reynolds was an accident, but the problem, but like I said,
they actually think Reynolds might have been shot by his own guys. Some people think that.
I'm kind of on board with that idea because I understand the situation. But regardless, the amount of higher ups and officers that were targeted during that time period.
I mean, that's valid.
It was very suspicious.
Well,
which I get. It could be an accident, and
true.
But regardless, from from the Union perspective, it was like a lot of our officers are getting shot.
Well, also,
how about
a lot of their officers got killed too. A.P. Hill,
true.
Jackson, Stewart.
But they were killed more during actual.
Also, most of them were killed
force on force.
Most of them were killed by their own men by accident.
Yeah.
But so, as I was saying though, so he's making his way down this watering hole.
Yep.
And he gets there, and there's a platoon of Confederates across the watering hole looking at him, and he goes, "Well, I'm gonna die."
Yep.
But instead, they all recognized him from a distance and saluted him.
See now I actually
Rick was a very well liked guy.
Yeah, I like that idea. So I've always loved the romanticized parts of like history of where it's like regardless of what side we're on, we can respect each other. Like we can respect. It's like that is a man that I would follow, regardless if like specifically those parts where it's like, listen, Lee, I would not follow, but I would respect him. Why?
Lee was very, very. People were quiet when he was.
And it's the same thing with Jackson. It's the same thing with Longstreet.
Appomattox,
like
Grant ordered no one to cheer.
Yeah.
When Lee left, and the officers replied back, you won't have to give that order, because all the men were just silent as he walked by, and a lot of them saluted him.
Well, I think that also came down to the fact that Lee had ascended to essentially
Lee before the war ended became a demigod.
Yeah,
people
and
in the North too viewed him that way.
And he was a scary demigod for the people of the North until he lost at Gettysburg, and then it was like, hey, we have a chance.
Well, it's the Iron Man 2 quote.
Yeah.
If you can make God bleed, people will stop believing in him.
Yeah, and there'll be sharks in the water.
Yeah.
And it's true, like legitimately speaking. And it's one of those things where it's like once you attain that level of demigod in the military, there's no stopping you unless you stop yourself. Even then, some people will put you at a pedestal.
We lost that respect. I feel like, in the Franco-Prussian War, when Napoleon III got captured, he was treated very well by the Prussians. The Germans treated him very well. And Bismarck and him, there's a famous painting of him and Bismarck sitting next to a cottage, and they're just talking, the two of them, which is so funny because this guy just destroyed your entire regime.
What's funny? Yet again, in this movie, it's like I don't want to be mean, but it's like they just drew up the typical stereotypical British, which is
so funny because it's filmed by an Englishman.
I know.
It's an Englishman who made the movie, but he's making the English so comical.
And to me, it's funny and entertaining. And so I love the scene. So it's a scene where it's the paragliders. They're in one of the gliders, and one of the soldiers has a chicken. Now, that's actually based off of a real story.
They did bring a chicken.
And they did bring a real chicken. He actually, I think he ended up actually getting a technical rank. But,
well, he was with the British, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the British had a chicken officer. I don't think he was an officer, but they actually had a chicken. It was funny. But the Marines actually had a duck, and it was funny because he ended up, I think, engaging a Japanese rooster or something.
Sorry to interrupt. This guy, though, is my favorite character.
Yes.
And he's actually, I think, the most sympathetic character in the entire movie. Well, and it's terrible because he's probably playing one of the most evil people.
Yeah. Well,
but he plays it in such a sympathetic way. And he's a gentleman.
Yeah. What's funny about that actor though is he actually could not be on set with certain I forget with one of the guys because they actually had dated the same actress and he was I know and he was still dating her or married to her and he was not a fan of one of the other guys.
No, it's not because they have a few scenes together. The blonde German.
Yeah, no. Which fun fact?
It might be Modal.
No. No, because he actually.
No, maybe it's the guy opposite Modal.
No,
the other general.
No. It was it was one of the American actors.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
It was either American or British.
He's the guy that was actually in World War II.
Yeah.
He was in the Hitler Youth. And then he got drafted into the SS and ran.
Yeah, and we were talking about that too. We're like, so how much do you want to bet did he run before or did he run after he realized that they were
people? They knew it was done. As soon as Paris fell, I think that is even when Big H, Bad Man.
Yeah.
I think Bad Man said when Paris was captured, that's when he knew it was over.
Yeah. Honestly, what's awful to say but true is if he had surrendered and said, "Hey, we're done," after Paris was liberated, he probably still would have been he would have been removed from power, but he still would have been alive.
I think an unconditional surrender would have been still happened.
It would have been,
but Yalta had already happened.
Yeah,
and the deal was already made that regardless of how the war went, it has to be a universal, unconditional surrender. It couldn't be the Germans could surrender to the West and then fight on with the Russians.
Although honestly, I think if he did that though, I think Operation Unthinkable would have actually been put in place.
Well, that's a scary. That's a scary thing.
It's a different aspect.
Would they have just kept going?
I think they would have.
Because would they have brought Franz von Papen back, made him chancellor, and had the German government reformed back into the conservative Weimars?
Which kills me the most is,
dude, can you imagine being a Dutch person seeing this?
I mean, I would have been happy, but at the same time,
I mean, when they're filming it.
Oh yeah, no. Well, no, I believe the Dutch were actually very. The
Dutch tried to take advantage of the filming.
They did.
Once they found out what was going on, they started charging ridiculous amounts of money for this.
Which is funny because they ended up getting all their stuff from Germany in the end because they're like
all the concrete and everything.
Yeah, because the Germans were like, we'll sell it to you actually at the normal price that we're supposed to sell the stuff.
Well, that's what happened with Disney when they came to Florida.
Yeah.
Because no one knew who the shell company was, and then the second it got out to Disney, people hiked the prices.
Yeah, but no, I think that they would have literally just been like, oh man, honestly, it kills me because I mean, to be fair though, I will say the Dutch probably were excited because this is one aspect that probably wasn't all that big, well known, in certain aspects. Especially for the American audience. Let's be honest. The American audience probably was just like, oh, Operation Market Garden, cool, it failed.
The American audience probably had no idea where this was.
Yeah.
They're probably like, they probably filmed this in, Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
I know.
I'm here. They're here for me.
Excuse me, Field Marshal. It's sad that I don't even have to look at the language. I can actually just hear it, and I can understand it now.
When you watch these movies enough, it's scary. And it's funny, I worked with a guy named Al. He learned Spanish by just watching Spanish movies.
You know what's funny, though? I started realizing it because someone was talking about this, how German is so much easier to learn as an English person.
English is a German root language.
Yeah, and I actually started watching more German stuff, and I was like, oh my god, it is. It is actually a lot easier to understand than I realized.
Well, that's why English was actually considered a bastardization of German. Well, that's why it was considered a rebel language.
To be fair, it's a bastardization of German, French, Italian, well, not Celtic. Italian, but Roman or like Latin.
Well, they called it Pig Latin.
Yeah,
that's what German was called Pig Latin, and then which is not nice. Which is not a kind thing to say. And he just died. What, like 2 years ago?
Yeah,
Robert Gould.
Yeah, he died not that long ago. You mean is it Ellie Gould or Robert Gould?
I think it's Robert Gould. Oh no, it's Elliot. Robert Gould's.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought it was.
I'm in Civil War mindset.
Yeah. So what my favorite part in this is, that's the specific tank I was talking about. How the British sent 20 of them to the Soviet Union. Yeah. But this is a.
I don't think those binoculars are accurate. Those are a little too big. Those look like World War I binoculars.
True, but no. So the tank that he's in, there's two versions. There's a track version, and there's a just a wheeled version.
Oh my god, dude, the gliders. Craziest thing about Operation Market Garden, a CO, like a commanding officer's glider went down. Everyone died in it. A German scout found it, and inside was all the plans for Market Garden.
And the sad thing is, at first they thought it's like,
a decoy.
Oh, this is a decoy. And then once they realized that everybody was doing exactly as it said, they went, oh, this is the real plans.
The funniest thing about World War II is the Germans thought we were smarter than we really were. Like the whole patent thing.
The amount of times that the Germans overthought our stupidity. We're like, it's like, we're going to do this because, they'll never expect it because they're going to expect us to do the smart thing. The Germans overestimated our intelligence.
You know what I think about? I think about the Shane Gillis thing where it's like, the British rightfully thought that an idiot would cross a river in the middle of the winter.
Joke's on them. Our first president was a redhead.
Sadly, they didn't realize our first president was across that river.
Yeah. But yeah, so what's funny is this whole scene I find quite amusing because it's hilarious because it's like, oh, I can't get in touch with Field Marshal Model. He actually got in touch with Field Marshal Model.
Oh, the Germans were this is the one thing I don't get about the movie, and it doesn't make sense with the Liberties either. The Germans were in very good communication about what was going on. They were contacting each other. They knew what was happening. It just was they didn't realize the strength that was hitting them because they didn't realize it was an airborne army. They thought this was like raids and stuff.
Yeah, they thought this was just going to be small sporadic events. They didn't realize this is the offensive push. And it's like, oh, okay, but like we said, once they had those plans and they realized people started doing exactly that, they were like, oh, we'll just counter this, and it worked pretty well, which is why to be honest, failing.
It worked well in one city.
Yeah,
because we took the, no offense to our English viewers, you guys dropped the ball. The 82nd and 101st took their bridges.
To be fair, Bittrick was also there, and the British were told, warned, and exactly
adapt. You adapt to the situation. You start blowing their bridges up on them. You stop those tanks from coming in.
Which, I mean...
Okay, where is Richard Attenborough? Because apparently he's in this scene.
He's probably one of the background characters.
He's one of the lunatics.
I know.
He asked to play one of the lunatics.
Which says a lot about him. Let's see, this lady...
It's the lunatics with the glasses.
See, my problem is I'm expecting a larger man. I don't know...
No, he was in shape.
Which means There he is.
There he is.
Yep, there he is. Which, you know, it's funny. That guy, I know for a fact
he was a veteran.
He was a veteran,
Yeah.
but he's also been in other things too.
Oh, yeah, the one saluting? Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are very small artillery to be doing this.
I know. Those wouldn't have the... I mean, they would have that range, but
yeah,
they would...
that's as far as those are probably going to go. Maybe a few more 100 yards.
Well, no,
this isn't like...
Those were tank... Those were supposed to be tank destroyer artillery pieces.
Well, do you know why the Dutch lowlands were so flooded?
The problem I have is there's a lot of knowledge, and it gets shuffled around, so I probably wouldn't remember.
So King Albert I of Belgium, my boy.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Albert. I'm a big fan. He makes me proud to be a Belgian. He stayed in Europe during World War I. He fought in the trenches with his men.
Oh,
and one day he was like, hey, you know what? The German army, there are dike systems. It'd be a shame if some ambitious soldiers went behind the German lines and blew up the dike systems. And the Belgians are like, are you telling us? I don't know. If you want to blow up the dike systems, blow up the dike systems. But that's up to you.
See, now the other artillery pieces that fight... That's
such a good song. Those are what you need.
Those are Pac-40s.
Yeah. But that's what you take artillery with. I mean, tanks with.
Yeah. But no. The artillery piece that was before that was a 103... Oh, not 103. That was a...
was it a long barrel?
It's not that. It's...
It should be howitzer.
That can actually hit those ranges. So what's funny is they use certain artillery pieces that were they were using 57 millimeters, and I know for a fact it was a 57 millimeter.
Well, it's because they were flooded. They couldn't bring in the heavy howitzers.
Well, no. I mean, for the specific scene where it's like, we're showing the howitzers. It wasn't a howitzer. It was a 57 millimeter anti-tank weapon that wasn't meant for that. But they do show the actual artillery and howitzer pieces that would have been used.
True.
Like that. Those ones actually, yes, those ones can hit that far. The problem is they still wouldn't have been used in certain aspects. And also the amount that I always find it hilarious, and it's the same thing with Gettysburg, where they show the same thing.
Well, Gettysburg,
just they flip.
So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but
the Confederates wouldn't have had parrots.
But my favorite thing is they show the same gun firing. They just flip it and go, it's a different gun.
You know who is who's so guilty of that? Gods and generals.
Well, Gods and
Generals is brutal with that. Because at least in Gettysburg, what they'll do is they'll switch around the artillery crew, so at least the men are not in the same position.
Yeah.
Gods and Generals, like, when they're doing the Chancellorsville scene, it's literally just the same regiments with different colors.
Yeah.
Literally. It's the same guy with the goatee like this, leading the guys forward.
Yeah. See, this is one of my favorite scenes because they do the smart thing. You don't target the first vehicle. You target the Well,
because then you can trap.
You target a couple of vehicles down, and then the main thing is that most of the time the tanks stop because it's like, one of our allies just got hit. You don't stop. You keep pushing.
What I understand, too, is these Germans, actually didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because the airdrops happened so far behind their lines. These were the border guard, and they saw what was happening. They're like, well, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Dude, I can't imagine hearing a freaking... we used to play Hell Let Loose all the time.
Yeah.
And that was obnoxious. You, me, my brother, and his friends being artillery. I could not imagine... in real life, oh my god!
I know
how I've been in one of our modern tanks, and the Armor Museum in Long Island has a Tiger, and I wanted to go in it, but they were renovating it. This summer when I go home, I might actually go in it. But I've been in the other tanks. They actually have a tank from the 7 Days War, and it was cool because a guy that actually fought in the tank came and he was able to identify it. Like, how do you know this is your tank? And he's like, there's going to be a shrapnel dent in the back of the tank, I guarantee you. And they're like, where? And he's like in the upper left corner above the tread. And they go to the back of it. There's a giant gap right there, and it was crazy. But dude, it's crazy how tight it is in there.
I know. You know what kills me the most is the fact is that there's a scene where the British are using the Maxim machine gun, and it kills me because recent pictures and recent videos out of Ukraine, they're still using the Maxim machine gun.
Oh, bro,
it's a gun that's been in use since before World War One.
It's crazy, dude, because we were talking about Civilization 7 the other day, and like think about Civilization, like you see the robots and stuff like that when you hit the certain era, but like it's crazy looking at modern day. It literally looks like this fighting.
I know.
It has, and this is the same thing because in Ukraine, Putin had to use a single road to move his troops in.
Yeah. And, I mean, to be fair, the Ukrainians, they were able to stop and hold a good amount of advances.
Well, because honestly, if you think about it, Ukraine is kind of situated very much like Holland. It's just they're not flooded as much. And it makes sense. They're Central Europe. Yeah. They have the Danube.
Well, especially where they're trying to get politically or strategic-like placements. See, this is one of the parts where I always thought was hilarious.
Why they just surrender?
Yeah.
Well, they're how far they have to be from the front lines. You're not going to be. But also, if you think about it, that tactically screws you because now you have to deal with all these prisoners. That's why Grant stopped. Actually,
I mean, to be fair, like one of the scenes in Band of Brothers in the second episode.
Well, that was a common order.
And
spears.
Yeah,
that was a common thing they did.
Well.
We did that to the Japanese, too.
Yeah. Well, the Japanese were a lot... They kind of deserved...
You also kind of had to, because they were going to go crazy if you left them.
It wasn't even that. It was... A lot of them... And it was famous words over... famous written words, actually, at one of the training camps, where it was... They're not dead until they're dead. Oh. Or whatever it was, where you had to shoot twice. Oh, and here's the scene where...
They find the plans.
Yep.
In the movie, though, they dismiss it.
I know, and it's hilarious.
Which isn't true. They once they realized what was happening, like, no, this is 100% what they're doing.
Yeah, no, at first they were like, oh, this is clearly a ruse. And then within, I think, in real life, I think it was literally
It was an hour later.
They were like, oh, they're doing exactly what this thing's doing. Oh, we're going to do this.
Well, but this is the thing I think is so funny, that they thought we were willing to kill an entire... Because they're like, no, it was a glider full with Allied soldiers. It's legit. And no, it is clearly a plan. It's clearly set up. And it's like, do you really think we would just randomly kill our own people?
I know.
Just to trick you? There was that story about, you can go now.
Yeah.
I'll continue. And then when you come back, you can go.
I'm gonna be right back.
He's gonna go do a good old whiz. I'm going to continue on, and then when he comes back, I'm going to go do my whiz, because we've been sitting here drinking some fine whiskey from our respected nations. I've been drinking some Irish. Is yours Scottish?
It is.
He's drinking Scottish, I'm drinking Irish. But yeah, so Market Garden really was and it's ironic that it was the Americans who were the ones that succeeded, and it was the British that... I'm not going to say they screwed up. They didn't screw up. They were placed in a very unfortunate situation. Because of everything, I really hope to God they didn't hear the toilet. But Nick will continue on. I was talking about the situation the British were in.
Oh, yeah, no. So I will give credit. So the British they wanted to give themselves the better of a target, which would give them more, fame per se, and the juicier target. The problem is that they kind of screwed themselves when it came to logistically and militaristically. They gave them they gave themselves the harder target. So theirs was farther away. It was a lot harder to get to, whereas America, we were kind of lucky in the 101st and the 82nd. We had easier targets, whereas the armor was literally going to get to us first. All we had to do was maintain 2 bridges. I think it was 2 bridges, I believe. I would have to double check on that. Don't hold me to it, guys. I've been having a little bit too much of scotch. But regardless, it's the same with me. But regardless, we got the easier target. We got the easier deal of the whole entire situation.
We were also closer.
We were closer.
We were close to the Belgian border.
And to be fair, we also were under the same impression as the British, where they had formed their paratroopers before us, and we thought, to be fair, we both thought that, as much as I hate to say it, we thought that theirs were probably better units in general.
Well, because think about this time in history, we're still the underdog, really. We
know
who we are today.
Yeah, we are not the same as we were back then.
They're still the British Empire.
Yeah,
at this
we were coming off of World War One. World War One, we won. We were gonna win. we came in knowing we were going to win.
What, 4 months?
Yeah.
When we first came in, there were 4 months left.
And realistically speaking, we weren't really worried about much. We weren't worried that we were going to have to actually do a hard slug of a fight. We knew we were going to win. Let's be honest here. We knew for a fact that, guys, the war's almost over. We might as well come in for a hot win and call it a day. Whereas the British, the French, they had experienced troops. They had the veterans. They had the actual hard fight. I'm not denouncing anything that we did as less. It's just, comparatively speaking.
Well, they also didn't fight in the war.
Yeah.
Almost 3. It was 2 years, but almost 3 years alone.
Yeah. It was a totally different aspect. Yeah.
I'm looking up this SS commander because I don't think he actually was a Nazi. Give me a second.
Probably not. I mean,
I think he got his position just because he was a very good general.
And that was the thing with a lot of Nazis, whereas they did the PR game before the PR game existed, whereas they were like, guys, who do we elect to who do we make this commander? Let's get a really famous person. I mean, the problem with the Nazis is they did have some good generals.
He was actually in the SA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was. Oh, okay. So this makes sense. So pretty much, okay. So to make this a little easier to understand, after World War I, the part of the Treaty of Versailles was the German army had to be restricted.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was because in a lot of the German states, communist governments had taken over.
Yeah. And
so a lot of these guys, what they did, they made something called Freikorps, which Freikorps is actually old Prussian light infantry regiment.
Yeah.
But what the Freikorps did was they pretty much just retook the cities from the communists.
See, I will say, sorry to interject.
No,
I love this part, and it's funny to me because the actor who is in this, he plays almost like the same guy in every single thing. He's in Ocean's 11. He's in the Ocean's movies, and he always has a stogie in his mouth. It seems every time.
Because it just looks right.
And it's funny because I mean, the actual guy. It's funny.
Yeah. But let me just finish my.
Sorry, yeah. Back to your.
I don't want to just start. So pretty much, Freikorps, what they did were they were ex-German soldiers being commanded by primarily Prussians.
Yeah. Who
are. So you understand what Prussians are. Prussia was the main state in Germany, and before Germany was united, Prussia was the largest German-speaking kingdom after Austria. And the Germans beat them, which I have a beautiful painting of. The Prussians beat them at the Battle of Königgrätz and pretty much kicked them out of Germany. They made Austria, that's why Austria stayed the Austrian Empire and then became Austro-Hungarian.
Yeah.
But Prussia was like the dominant state. But so after World War I, a lot of these Prussian officers took positions of command in the Freikorps. What happened though in Bavaria was... Continue.
Sorry to interject. What's funny is he would not actually have his ranking on his helmet like that.
No, because it'd make him a target.
It would have made him a target. That would have been a ceremonial helmet style.
And it would have had webbing on it.
Yeah.
But so what happened was the Freikorps in Bavaria specifically got abandoned by the conservative government that helped make the Weimar Republic. And a lot of them got kind of angry about that and didn't like that they were abandoned. Because in other parts of Germany, what happened was the Freikorps were kept on as police.
You know what I've always noticed, and I don't know if it's just a German thing or if it's just a military thing in general. Whenever basic army men have been abandoned by their higher ups, it doesn't end well. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's the sack of Rome.
Yeah.
The Last Stand, the song that everyone thinks is about the Crusades. No, that was because the freaking Holy Roman Empire armies, officers abandoned them. That's literally the line.
Yeah.
It's like abandoned by your lords. But so pretty much what happened was a lot of the Freikorps in Bavaria joined the National Socialists and became the Sturmlagen, or the SA, which were the brown shirts. They were the military arm of the National Socialist Party. What happened was in, I think, 24, 25, the SA split, and the elite of the SA created the first SS. And the SS became the guard unit of, Badman. Badman described them as the Praetorian Guards of the National Socialist Party.
Sorry to interject again. This is where the part in the movie where they actually have the plans. The SS commander hands it off to Modal and says, these are the plans, and it's funny because this is the part where it actually interjects from real life, and Modal goes, "Come, Ludwig, we'll have dinner," and it's like, but sir, the plans, and it's like, oh, these are clearly fakes. They did that for about an hour, and then once they realized everything was going exactly to these plans, they went, oh, we're just gonna counter everything in this.
Literally,
and
exactly,
it worked out kind of good for them. Not at the end, obviously, but that was different. But to counter the whole thing, it worked out relatively well.
Yeah. But pretty much just to finish on the point I was making, the man who was in command of the SS during Operation Mark Garden was a man named Wilhelm Bittrich. He joined the SS early on. He was a member of one of these Free Corps units. It's crazy because he was actually one of the first field SS commanders. The SS up until 40 actually wasn't field combatants. Hitler made that. I'm calling his freaking name.
Yeah.
Hitler originally.
I think we were good up to like 20 minutes because I think it's just YouTube's algorithm.
Yeah.
If it sees Nazi, Hitler, or any of that stuff,
which I usually say National Socialist anyway. So
yeah, because I mean it's the same thing. It literally is.
It literally is the same thing. But Bittrich was he led the first SS Waffen SS units, things like that. These were field armies. Originally, the SS wasn't supposed to be used as a field army, but Heinrich Himmler, as the war went on, was like,
"Well,
we need men."
Himmler also was pushing for more power on his end, and
because Himmler was a wannabe.
Yeah, and
he wanted to be.
Well, he was too young to fight in World War I.
Well, actually,
or whatever the reason was.
He had just graduated officers' school when the war ended.
I knew there was something. It was something.
He had just graduated.
And then the war ended, and he was like, "Dang, I could have been something." And then World War II happens, and he was like, "Here's my chance."
Well, it was Martin Bormann who put him in position to command the Army of the North because he knew he was going to fail.
Yeah.
So he knew he would fall out of favor. There's a series on Netflix called Hitler's Circle of Evil.
Oh, I love that one. That one's a good one.
It is so fascinating. Because it really was just these petulant children.
See, now this is the sorry to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
This is the entertainment part. So in the movie, the British have taken is this Arnhem?
This is Arnhem, yeah.
Yeah, so the British have taken Arnhem and they're dashing about. The British wouldn't have done that, first of all. I'm not saying that as like, a dig. I'm just saying that is what the actual veterans have said. The British wouldn't have done that. They would have casually have been walking because that is how you do it.
This looks like a guy I work with. Not Anthony Hopkins, this guy.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about, yeah.
No, you've never met this guy. This is a guy that literally just works where I work. Like, I've never brought him over here.
No. I know that. I'm saying, I'm pretty sure I've seen someone who looks like that.
Oh,
where you are.
Out and about? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Fine.
Which, I mean...
Mystery, where I work.
I know. It's a mystery. You'll never guess.
You'll never guess.
You'll never guess and you'll never know, or at least not through my lips. See, I love this part because the mother, the mother is like...
the one that gets...
is so upset, but at the same time... And then, like, 2 seconds later, she gets... sorry to say, but she gets gunned down, which is horrific, but at the same time...
I used to say that's how my
she says it in the most hilarious... the way they do it is the most hilarious way possible.
True or false, she's my mom's mom? Rest in peace, I love you, Grandma.
True. I don't want to be mean,
my grandma would 100% get these people out of my house.
Like I know your family pretty well at this point. I know for a fact she would have done that.
My grandma also would have seen the Germans coming and be like, "Park in the back. Don't put this tank. Don't put down my property value. Put the tank in the back."
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Your family probably would have been a little bit mixed on the American, the not the Americans, but the British showing up. They'd be like,
"Oh, dude, my grandpa. Oh my god, my grandpa would be like, get out." My grandpa would have fought with the Germans just to get the English out of his house. Are you kidding me?
Which is
he'd be like, "I hate you 100% of the time, but I need these blinds out."
See, every time I think of my ancestors, I think of that scene in Waterloo with all the Scots dancing and I'm in the barn, and I'm like, that's not what they would do. But at the same time, I know
that didn't happen.
I know, but you know what I mean. I pictured that every time I pictured my ancestors.
Speaking of Waterloo, fun fact, I had a family member I found a photograph of. He was a Lancer at Waterloo, which was pretty cool to find out. Same last name and everything, so that was pretty cool. I went through Ancestry, found out it really is related to me. This did happen.
This did happen, but at the same time, it's so dumb. And it's one of those bits where I respect the English for being crazy and stupid.
You know how they rushed it. They would have 100% taken it out.
I know. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the Korean War. So, fun fact, the Korean War, there was an incident where the Koreans were essentially being outnumbered, outgunned, and literally about to be overrun by the Chinese and North Korean army. And when asked, hey, are you guys okay? The British literally went, I believe it was like, we're in a bit of a pickle, but for the most part, we're doing jolly good. And the Americans were like, okay.
That's 90% of the British.
And the British were literally about to be overrun and destroyed. And they were overrun and destroyed. And the Americans were like, what is wrong with you? Please, tell us next time. And the British were like, well, we didn't think it was that bad.
Well,
it's like,
but honestly, and not to defend them, but think about like their perspective of the world. When you are the dominant power for so long, and your system, like this is what I talk about why the French are so bitter these days. When you are who you are for as long as you are, it is humiliating to be cut down the way that these countries work.
I know, but it's one of those things where it's like the British need to understand. We don't fight like that anymore. There is no pageantry anymore. Unfortunately, I wish there was, but there is not. No, there's no more pageantry.
That's the best line in Waterloo when he's like, "Dramatic fellows, he's French. It's quite beautiful."
But it's true though. There's no more pageantry in war, and I think the British need to understand that. Which, give credit. I'm pretty sure they've learned their lesson since then.
Prince Albert, who actually was the one that convinced them to stop wearing red. He was like, this is an awful idea. Why are you wearing this? That's why if you actually look at the British colonial uniforms, very similar to the Prussians and Germans. Because Prince Albert was from Saxe-Coburg, which later was a principality, but later became a state in the German Empire.
You have to also remember who is in charge of the British royalty. They're not really...
German.
They're all German. They're not British.
That's true. Literally... Let's discuss these names. So you had the Plantagenets, who were French.
Yep.
You had the Tudors, who were French. You had the Stuarts, who were Scottish.
Which you had really last.
The Stuarts are what, 4? There's Charles, James, Mary. Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
Then you had the Hanovers, who were German, and the Saxe-Coburgs, who are technically still in charge. They just changed their name in World War I because people associated them with the Germans.
And it was perspectives. Especially when, what's her name, married, what's his name? Prince Philip.
Well, that's not
Elizabeth married Philip and whatnot. And it did not look good when he had...
what is his family's name? Because his mother was in Battenberg, but they changed it to Mountbatten. What was the father?
Beyond me.
They were the royal house of Greece. I know that.
I know. Beyond me, I'm not big into the royal files. I'm sorry.
My sister loves the royals. Loves them.
I stopped with the Stuarts, but that's just me.
Why? I find the Hanovers fascinating.
Okay, to be fair, the Hanovers
George
are fascinating.
III, as an American, as a crazy patriotic American, I actually find George III fascinating.
I will give credit. Okay, so I guess technically the Hanovers, a little bit into, but regardless.
The Stuarts suck.
Fuck you.
The English Civil War happened under the Stuarts.
I know.
Do you know that's the only reason that the British Army
that's the most Scottish thing ever, though.
No, that's facts. That's actually facts. Do you know that the reason the British Army is not called the Royal Army?
Sorry to interject. I love this German dude for the sole reason of he looks like the most atypical bad guy in any film. And he also kind of reminds me of the voice actor for Mr. Krabs.
They also kind of hype him up, and he literally does nothing.
Yeah, he dies within 30 seconds.
Like literally does literally nothing.
Literally gets destroyed by
throwbacks on my Buchanan video. He did nothing.
What's the British the plunger? It's not the actual plunger. It's the anti-tank device that would actually...
Oh, it's like it's kind of like a hand mortar.
It's a spring device that launches a mortar...
Kills the guy
for the life of me. I'm trying to remember.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
One of the this is kind of like Indiana Jones. The guy with the sword when he just shoots him.
I know.
That's kind of what this.
I usually know. Let me see. People are gonna roast me alive. What's sad is I know this stuff, and if it wasn't for the fact that I'm currently inebriated.
We're drinking and watching this movie that we both love.
Yes.
And we also weren't planning to do this. Usually we give ourselves the day to learn about a subject.
I'm not gonna lie. I was planning on watching my favorite movie, Masters of Commander, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
You watch, bro.
They need to make more naval movies from the 1800s or the 1700s.
Nick got a projector, and the first thing he says to me is, "We should go outside and watch Masters of Commanders."
And you know what we did? We watched Masters of Commanders.
And you know what?
It was a great movie. And it's a great movie on a projector.
I was actually going to watch John Adams. John Adams is a very underappreciated president.
Oh, it's going to kill me.
See, what doesn't make sense though is he's wearing
the Piat. The Piat. I don't
know. He's wearing SS. Never mind.
I don't know why I forgot that. It's for the. See, that's one of those things that annoys me. When the British, they don't open fire when they have all the time. See, and now they open fire.
Okay.
Literally, they. It's one of those things. It instantly destroys that vehicle. He gets thrown out, killed.
Yeah, the guy's pointless. Like they make it look like he's the next big bad to come. They make it look like he's like the last boss, and then it's like he gets killed
then instantly killed. I'll look a Sten.
I actually think some of these vehicles are actually British.
They are. So that's a Kubel wagon.
That's clear. Yeah. That's 100%
that is the. What's the?
Because a lot of these German vehicles were destroyed in World War II.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
that's a martyr.
Yeah.
That is. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't speak German, so I'm not gonna lie. It's.
How dare you not know another language?
I know.
American. How dare you? In a country where we only teach 2 languages if you want. How dare you?
What's funny is there's a lot of Kubel wagons.
Well, these were fresh troops, so that makes sense. These weren't actually part of the route from France. These were actually a division that was sent to help organize things. So it makes sense that they're a little better. It's kind of like in Fury, where they're fighting like the Volkssturm and stuff, but then at the end dude.
To be fair, you know what's funny? Fury is based off of 2 different people.
I was hoping because I was like.
So Fury is based off of 2 different events. Fun fact: dead. Fury is based off of a American tanker and also off of Audie Murphy.
Audie Murphy. I also did a video on Audie Murphy.
Give me mercy. It's gonna be what's the name of
Audie Murphy played himself in a movie.
About
himself.
And they also told him to turn it down because they're like, no, this isn't believable. And he's like, I literally did this and I literally killed these guys.
But do you know what movie he's actually most famous for?
What movie?
Red Badge of Courage. Which, ironically, he plays a coward in. For those of you that don't know, Audie Murphy is the most decorated man in American
Lafayette
history.
Green Pool. So Fury is based off of Lafayette Green Pool and Audie Murphy. The Lafayette part is the tank parts, because he was actually a very, very good American tank commander.
Audie Murphy?
No. Lafayette Green Pool.
Okay. I was like,
the end scene in Fury is based off of Audie Murphy's, but it was off of an M10 tank destroyer, not an M4.
Did wild stuff. Like he took on like 20 Germans alone.
Yeah, well, that was because his best friend was shot and killed.
Yeah, he was getting
and then he was pissed, and he was literally like, "All right, these guys are gonna die."
That reminds me of that story from Gettysburg when we were there about the Nixon.
Oh, yeah.
How the guy was laying there, and that's where Richard Nixon got his name from, the guy that saved his grandpa.
Yep.
That was so cool. I didn't know that. I knew Nixon's grandfather was in the Civil War.
Yes.
I thought he was in the Western armies, though. I didn't realize he was at Gettysburg.
I didn't know that part either.
I thought that was interesting.
So this is the part where it was all, not to be mean, but BS, whereas Frost is running from scene to scene, and Anthony Hopkins is like, well, wouldn't you do that? And the actual Frost was like, no, because I have to
show contempt.
Show contempt of the enemy and convey it to my men that I don't fear the enemy. And I would clearly, casually stroll to my other allies. And it's like, the British, you guys are crazy, but insane. I love it. Like,
I gotta say, the British and Germans definitely had more respect for each other than the Americans and Germans.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Germans did not care for the Germans did not care for the trench guns.
That's my favorite Rick and Morty meme, where it's Jerry dressed up as a German and Rick as an American, and it's like shotguns are unfair and inhumane, and it's Rick. I don't give a Jerry. That's the most American. I should have got a shotgun.
I mean, I got mine, and mine's got all the type of fun rounds. I'm not gonna say which because I'm not gonna say. Sounds like a you problem.
My family watches. That was actually a crazy fact.
Listen, it's all legal.
This is my dad's mom. Hi, Grandma. My grandma actually watches these. I found out last time I was home. She's like, oh, Timmy, I watch all your videos. You and your friend, they're great. And I'm like, all of them? And she goes,
all of
them. And I was like, ugh.
Well, that's okay.
Like, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure I met them.
Oh yeah, you met them. Well, you met.
I've met most of your family.
I don't think there's anyone in my family you and me literally went to a family event, got wings, and then dipped out.
Hi, Tim's family.
Multiple times, actually, I think. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, he's using a 1911.
I mean, the problem is though.
Okay, wait, he'd be dead.
Not entirely,
dude.
No, because if it was
that was a 40 MG42 or 44.
No, it wasn't MG44. It was an MP40.
I still think that would do. Maybe
9 mil. No, 9 mil.
Maybe not.
And I love the MP40. I think it is a good gun, but it depending on the situation, it might not have been as accurate.
Wait,
and then this part.
This is a great. That's the most Sean Connery thing ever.
Yeah. He will be fine.
Just get out. It's crazy seeing this and seeing because this movie, honestly, yes, there's Americans. This really focuses on the British perspective, though, if you really think about it. Like Band of Brothers.
To be fair, it's based off
the Americans did go through was nuts too.
Yeah. Honestly, I want to see a British Band of Brothers. And it's not from any other perspective. I want to see how
the Seventh Army the whole time.
Yeah,
be good.
It would be fantastic, but it would be difficult to do nowadays, just because I think no one would really want to do it. And it's sad.
I mean, you would have to dump so many resources into it and everything. Like, look at the issues I'm having pitching the Gettysburg series I'm trying to get made.
True.
Yeah. By the way, if you're in for that, comment. Support me. I'm trying to get a Gettysburg 7-episode Gettysburg series made.
See, I still think that they should do a the Fat Electrician did a wonderful video on Old 666, and that would be a fantastic movie. And honestly, that'd probably be the easiest to do. But that's just because it's an air movie.
And to be honest, we can talk about this right now because we're watching a movie. Ooh, there's my boy Demholm Elliott.
Oh, I love him.
Love this guy.
Yep, he's one of my favorites.
Marcus Brody, and also Henry Poulain in Zulu.
Yep.
Dawn, not Zulu. First one. I just realized they can't hear the movie, so
yeah,
it was one of
it's for the best because, like I said, Gene Hackman plays Sosabowski with I don't know what accent. No one does. I feel like.
Do you know the king of Poland during the Winged Hussar's name was Jan Sobieski? Is that kind of funny? The same name.
I mean,
also the king of Poland was an elected king. He wasn't actually a king.
Yeah.
They chose him. That's why the royals were making fun of him. Like, you're just a general. He's like, still gonna win. Still. That's actually a good movie.
It was.
They need to start making movies like that again.
Honestly, yes. And it was the same. So we actually just recently watched, what was the Russian movie?
Oh God, that was good too.
The Decemberists. The Decemberists
movie. That was a good movie.
Decemberists or Salvation Union? I can't remember. Exactly.
Union of Salvation.
Union of Salvation.
That was a good movie.
So it's actually difficult to get. Unfortunately, it's
Russian.
It's Russian and it's been embargoed. But at the same time, so we had to actually get it through a difficult means. Gonna leave it at that. And the only way to actually get it now is in America at least is through a difficult means.
It's on YouTube, but it's not the whole movie.
And it's also not in English.
Yeah, it's in Korean.
It's in Korean, and you cannot get it translated into English through that, unfortunately. So we found a way. We got it. And we were watching it, and it's actually a very well done movie, honestly.
Very good. It's probably one of the best movies
from that time period.
That time period to show 19th century fighting style, very well done.
Yeah,
and also it discusses an era that's not very often discussed.
It's true
because it's an interesting period.
It's post Napoleon, but pre like the big wars.
It's kind of it's a crazy way to put it. Because it was Nicholas I's son, I believe, who was the one that was originally one of the proponents to marry Victoria. It's kind of a weird way. It's like pre-Victorian. It's like Russian pre-Victorian era, which is very interesting. It talks about Prince Constantine and all that stuff. It was actually a very well done movie.
It was.
And the CGI wasn't that bad. Compared to
the CGI was used.
Movie.
I will say the CGI was used sparingly. It was used when it needed to be exactly used.
It was very well done, though.
Like I will give credit. They did a very well job. And
yeah.
I would love to see more movies like that, but maybe not entirely. Not obviously. It doesn't need to be in Russia. It needs to be like. I would love to see other parts of the world.
It's so sad because you and me saw Napoleon for my birthday. We were in that big group,
which
was such a letdown, dude.
The problem that I think, and I don't know if you will agree with me on this, but it was a Napoleon movie, but it was a Napoleon.
It was a Dear Josephine.
Yeah, it was if anybody's ever seen the movie Dear John, it was that, but it was Dear Josephine. It was not really meant to be a war movie, and it wasn't. It was a
love movie. It was a movie about him and his wife. It was,
even then, it was still, in my opinion, kind of off on many aspects.
When he slaps her, I freaking was furious because that never happened.
Yeah. Well, there was many parts in that movie that never happened,
oh my God.
And that I was literally just going, I'm going to hold back exactly what I want to say because it's my friend's birthday and I just want to.
My favorite part
hopefully
was
enjoy this movie
when everyone crowded around me. We had 11 people there. It was a big group.
Yeah, there was a large group, and we were just like, "So Tim, how'd you enjoy it?" I'm over there going,
"It was an okay movie."
And I literally I was just going throughout the whole movie. I was literally just going, waiting for a good part.
Well, what was funny was when the movie ended, because it was me, Nick, and our friend. You've seen Josh. He was with our Israel video. He was on the other side because he was late getting his seat. So me and Nick walk over to Josh, and we're sitting there like this, talking to one another. And then I turn, and everyone else had made like a semicircle around me, and they're like, "So how was the movie?"
We wanted to know his opinions. So if Tim hasn't told you, Tim is a giant Napoleon file. Like he loves the man. He wishes he could, essentially,
I'll be Napoleon one day. I'll be an emperor.
So regardless, we were like, okay. So what were your thoughts? And I'm over there going. He's gonna say exactly what I was expecting him to say.
The movie Waterloo, which only covers 100 days, showed more of the true life of Napoleon than that movie, which covered 30 years of his life. And he wasn't at the execution of Marie Antoinette. Yeah. That never happened.
And on top of that, nay. I
felt so bad for that guy, though. That guy,
the fact that he
reached out to their
family and apologized was enough for me to say, clearly this movie might not be the best.
To be honest, though, what was crazy was I saw a
picture of him. He looked identical to him.
He did. He looked just like him.
All he had to do was not have the mustache, and
it was crazy. I don't even get it. And I did respect the fact that DeVoe. Yeah, it's fine. I respected the fact that Davout actually kind of did look like Davout, because Davout was a young guy. But I just didn't get it. It didn't make sense. And apparently they're like, oh, well, it's to differentiate him from the other marshals. They didn't name any of the other marshals in the movie. It didn't make sense. The only people you knew who they were Kunakur, Talleyrand, and Napoleon himself. Those were the only Frenchmen you knew. It didn't make sense, man. If I was given the budget Ridley Scott had, I would have made a better Napoleon series.
See, that's the thing that I was hoping that they would have done instead. They could have done an HBO-style series.
Well, series is where it's at now. Movies are dying off.
And
it's
it
sad
kills
to
me.
say, but it's true.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it is sad to say, but series are the way to go. Movies, I love movies. I used to have memberships to go see movies for like 5 cents every movie.
You tried so hard to get me to do that membership, and I was like, no.
Honestly,
which is weird because we actually did go see a lot of movies back in New England.
And well, when I lived in Tennessee, I saw movies once a week, if not twice a week, and it worked out great. But nowadays, it is series, and it's one of those things where that is the way to go. And honestly, Ridley Scott should have sold it to Apple as a series.
Ridley Scott, you know what? And it's so sad, because I actually made a video defending him. I was like, you need to understand, he's an artist. He has the liberties he wants to take. But you know what? I expected him to be honest, at least.
Yeah.
They made it the most Anglophile movie ever.
And
that's what upset me about it.
And it's one of those things, so me and Tim have been talking about this. Most movies about Napoleon, or most series about Napoleon, very few series have gotten it correct, or at least even like unbiased.
Shout out to Napoleon 2003.
True.
Watch that. Christian Clavier, Gerard Depardieu, and weirdly John Malkovich. But great series. You should watch it.
So almost every Napoleon movie or Napoleon show or whatnot has come at it from an Anglophile base. Which, listen, Napoleon lost. I get it. I understand that. However, it comes off of, like, every movie and every series comes off as Napoleon lost in this way because
they're humiliated.
Yeah, it's a humiliation. Like Ridley Scott's, it came off as a humiliation against Napoleon.
It made him a tiny baby who screamed and cried when he didn't get what he wanted. And, it's a funny scene, with Dow, which I'm sad we never got Dow to come on the podcast because he wanted to. But, me and Dow had the joke, I enjoy my meals. I do. Which, I'm not going to lie, the movie had some funny moments.
Oh, yeah, the movie had funny moments and actual moments where it was based off of real life.
Yeah, like the whole divorce scene, that did happen. But
or the what was the coronation scene where
he takes the crown
and her lover is there?
Oh yeah, that did happen.
Where it was to be fair, it was one of those situations where it's like, listen, I know you're my wife's lover, but I am the emperor, and I will kill you if I want.
I hated that scene too because, I think in the last podcast we did, I mentioned this too, because they make it look like it was a shock that he crowned himself. That was planned. Everyone knew he was going to do that, including the Pope.
Yeah.
That wasn't like,
it's like, oh, shocker.
It was a planned ceremony. Everyone knew he was going to crown himself and that he was going to crown Josephine. But they made it look, dude, it was so freaking stupid, man. And God. Can the history community come together and just get enough money that we can make a movie about Napoleon correct?
And I don't want to be that person, but at the same time, can we do it in 2 languages? Can we do it in English?
I like how we just completely the murder.
I know.
Too far.
It's just funny because the movie itself.
Because it's my turn.
The movie's actually at a part where it's based off of an actual event where.
This actually did happen.
So, it's hilarious because it looks like it was ripped from a scene from MASH, but it's the part where James Caan's character takes his superior officer to the medic's tent and threatens to kill the doctor if he doesn't operate on him to save his life. That was actually based off of a real event, and it's crazy and it's hilarious, but it's true. And history is hilarious because sometimes history is stranger than fiction. It's one of those things that it is. But getting back onto the Napoleon bit, which I know it's hilarious, but Napoleon has always been viewed as like every version. I've always seen him from an Anglophile version, and like I get that he was defeated by the British and also the Alliance. It wasn't just the British. To be fair, Blucher was the one. The Blucher was the one who say. I'm not gonna lie. This is one of those things that always drives me nuts. And
no, the whole reason Blucher is not given the credit he's due. Okay, let me get into this. Is because of World War I and World War II.
Yep.
The de-Germification because of the war, which, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and say what happened was right. It was wrong. Everything, because I think it's a little unfair that Germany in World War I got all the blame.
Yeah.
My favorite meme is the meme of Austria sweating, and it's like when you start 2 world wars, but no one blames you. But, like, World War II was terrible, what happened, evil. But at the same time, you know, Wellington was on the... And that's something else I hate about that movie.
I know.
About Napoleon. They make it look like Wellington was already... Oh, yeah, no, the Prussians didn't really matter.
And also, to go into that movie as one more bit, sorry, off track of Bridge Too Far. Every movie has made Wellington look older than he really was. These guys were
Christopher Plummer, I think, is pretty accurate.
Okay, well, Plummer was probably a little bit more accurate.
But the rest, they had like a 70-year-old man playing him.
Yeah. But in Napoleon from Ridley Scott's version, it's a 70-year-old dude or a 50-year-old dude.
Yeah, it's Robert Redford.
And it's like, guys, Wellington was only in his what? He
might have just been in his 30s.
He was young. They were all younger than they really are.
I don't understand why I keep going to Google when I have ChatGPT. Like, I don't
you got to stop using that, or else it's going to bring up some wrong facts. So, getting back into A Bridge Too Far, though. So the scene, I think the reason why I think the scene is it looks like it is ripped from MASH is because they used some of the same actors.
Wow, he was 46.
Wellington?
Yeah, that's actually a lot older.
That is a lot older than I was expecting.
That's still not Rupert Everett.
Yeah, no, it's still not 70 years old though. Regardless, and sorry for the volume, but like seriously though.
I also hated the Pony Express thing they did. With, like, the scouts. I'm like, that is not at all... First of all, Napoleon knew it was the Prussians the entire time.
Yeah.
They make it look like, the Prussians are here?
Yeah.
No, Napoleon knew it was... Oh, this is such a good scene with the pontoons.
You know what's... kills me? So, me and Tim used to work at a camp together. I'm not going to say what camp, but we used to work together at a camp, and this always reminds me of it.
Work week.
The docks.
Oh, yeah! I never built the docks. So me and Nick worked in completely different departments. I was director of the crafts department. He was aquatics. You could probably tell by our...
Not entirely.
Him being an in-shape person, me being a little plump.
Regardless, though, so I was aquatics. He was crafts and whatnot. But to be fair, we all came together to build the docks, generally speaking.
I hated building the docks.
I don't remember ever seeing you...
when... No, I was there with the Rangers one time where we would stage them behind the island. I hated doing that, dude. It was awful.
But this part always reminded me of the docks, just because, I mean, they're building the pontoon bridge, and it's funny because there's the scene where it's like, have you ever built one of these before? No. Neither have I.
Well, this is more like what you guys did. What we did was kind of like in Zulu, where they're building the bridge and it's falling apart. Because what would happen was we'd be on the boat, and they'd be like, tie it down, but like the water would be, I'd be like, I'd be holding on to it.
Yeah.
That's another, we should do that as our next one. We do Zulu. Oh, that's such a good movie, too. But this is the thing.
I think we should do a movie corner of specifically this section and actually do, like, movies that we love. Cause
we're doing a podcast like this from now on.
I really
hands
like
down.
This. Same.
I really like this. This is a good setup.
We only need one camera, and also it works out great.
And if Josh comes down again, he can just sit here.
True. The only thing is, though, we might have to like rearrange this because I realize that if I move more towards this side of the chair, I'm completely out of it.
Well,
but it is what it is.
Considering we did this on
a whim.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm not even kidding. Me and him are sitting here watching this, and I'm like, we always have these good conversations that we should have on the podcast. And I'm like, let me see what the setup looks like. I'm like, screw it, we're doing it.
I think next, though, for the next big holiday or whatever, I might just end up buying you a pair of the lapel things.
Don't do that. Come on.
I don't care.
Don't
care.
I think we're a gay couple.
Our neighbors already think that.
No, our neighbors 100% think we're gay.
Yeah.
Which is nothing wrong with being gay. I'm just saying, I do have a girlfriend who does watch these.
Hi.
This is your first time meeting. She almost met you one time.
I was a little sick. A little bit.
Self-induced.
Little too much of liquid scotch. I mean liquid Scott.
This also did slow up. So, like we were saying, it's the bridge building scene. And this did slow up the advance significantly. It did. This was actually worst case scenario, and the Germans were able to achieve this. But, Rundstedt, I don't think actually wanted them to blow the bridges. I think the SS did that on their own accord. Because Rundstedt's like, how are we supposed to retake these territories if you blow the bridges?
Well, it's one of those situations where it's a win-loss, though. I mean, it is militarily speaking, it's a win-loss. So either you destroy a bridge, that's a tactical victory / tactical loss. Because remember, if you destroy the only bridge in the area, it means you can no longer get there. Yes, your enemies can no longer get there. But if you try to retake the area, it's going to become more difficult for you as well as the enemy.
Well, look at Burnside's bridge in Antietam.
Yeah.
It was the only bridge in that sector of the field. The Union got slaughtered. I think it was only like 30 guys. No, it might have been like 100. But that's a whole corps that was crossing that bridge, and they got massacred.
Yeah. And then, like the scene, he says they're X amount of hours over
late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. So, you know what the funniest soundtrack, it is a fantastic soundtrack. One of my favorite parts. They're good soldiers, the 82nd. Just keep your hands on your wallet. Sorry.
That's a good movie.
One of the few things that, and I've mentioned this with Tim, is I miss the romanticization movies. So there was an era of
well, it could be a romanticization and also an anti-war movie.
Yeah, which like this movie is 100% anti-war, as is Waterloo in many aspects. But this movie is 100% anti-war, and I'm pretty sure one of the editors or directors or whoever it is, I can't remember. I think it's the editor. He is 100% anti-war, and he makes it his life mission. And he says it. He's throughout the whole entire thing. I tried to make this as anti-war as possible, but there's still the romanticization of the war through the lens that we see.
Do you know what movie does actually a really good job with it too? Which I don't even think it's meaning to, but it does a really good job. Is Zulu, because that scene at the end, which is completely fake, that never happened. What happened was the Zulus realized they weren't supposed to cross the river, and the prince was like, "I'm gonna get killed by my brother when I get back to Ulundi."
Yeah.
But there's this beautiful scene where.
See, this part makes no... I'm sorry to cut you off. This part makes no sense for multiple reasons. One, they're like, oh, the British are happy to see tanks coming across the bridge that previously had Germans coming across. I'm sorry, but if I see a tank coming across a bridge that only Germans have been coming across, I'm going to assume it's freaking Germans.
It also clearly has German emblems on it.
And on top of that, what's funny is they actually, so the movie itself, they don't use the proper tank. They use an afterworld. I'm pretty sure it's a 70s tank, because that is not even it doesn't even
the Falklands.
It doesn't even look like, well, no, because that's a German tank.
Is it? I thought they were British.
No, that one's a specific German tank. I'm pretty sure that's a Leopard 1. Because I'm
going to take your word for it, because I'm not very... You know my era. I honestly stopped at World War One.
Let me see.
World War II, I don't like touching that much. But yeah, the beautiful scene at the end of Zulu.
I'm pretty sure it's a Leopard 1. It's hard... Yeah, it's a Leopard 1. I think it's a Leopard 1. Don't hold me to it.
I think it's a shorter barrel, though. They probably shortened the barrel.
Regardless... But the thing is they use a tank that doesn't even look remotely like a World War II tank, which, listen, I understand from, movie perspective, it's hard to actually get
That was the most dramatic scene I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It's one of the funniest things I've seen in movies. It still is. It's like, sir. Also, the fact is that they don't take the tank, which I'm not gonna lie.
I would try to move
if I'm SAS though, I would take that tank. It is a viable.
SAS doesn't exist yet. These are just British airports.
True. I'll give you credit on that one. But regardless, though, it's a usable artillery piece at minimum. And if not, you still have, let's see, you have the hull gun, you have the coaxial, and you have the top gun, the commander's gun. So you have 3 machine guns on this tank.
I love how they all think he's dead. And they're like, oh my god, you're alive?
Yeah, everybody's like staring at him like, sir, you're a ghost. It's like, dude,
it's I'm like clearly here. I saw you die. I was faking it. I'm sick of these Englishmen with their mustaches. He's a big actor too.
As is him.
These are this movie.
This movie.
This is the Avengers of the 70s, and it's so true.
I mentioned that when you went to the bathroom.
Oh, did you?
Earlier, yes. Which is true because the amount of the amount of actors that were in their prime during this time period that they got for this movie is amazing to me.
Well, Richard Attenborough, everyone wanted to be working with Richard Attenborough.
Sosbowski's Polish Brigaders due at 12. Not because of the weather.
That's another thing I think people really underestimate with war, how weather really affects war.
Yeah.
Like, D-Day almost didn't happen.
Well, it was technically, I believe it was postponed, was it not?
It was postponed like 3 times, yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually a lighthouse from Mayo in Ireland, in County Mayo. It was the one that actually gave the report to London and was like, you need to do it now. Like, this is your chance. Do it now. And Eisenhower made the last call. I gotta say, Eisenhower really, things could have went bad for him. Yeah. Like, it is such a...
In certain aspects, things did go bad for him, but that's a different topic for a different day.
Though, like, you look at Ferdinand Foch in the World War I, because Ferdinand Foch was the commander of the French army, but he was also the supreme commander of the Allied forces in World War I. That's what Eisenhower is in World War II. And actually, a movie that represents Foch really good is All Quiet on the Western Front, the one that came out a few years ago.
Oh, yes.
Dude, and it doesn't make sense because in the book, Foch never makes an appearance, but like the interaction Foch and the Germans have is so good because you can just see the hatred in Foch's eyes. Foch was, I think, an infantryman during the Franco-Prussian War, so a lot of these guys had a visceral hatred for the Germans. And he plays it so well.
Sorry to cut you off. I was double checking for my own lower reasons. My ADHD had caught me. In the film, post-war Leopard 1 tank was used to dress up as a Panther tank. So I was correct.
There you go.
But you were also somewhat correct. They actually had changed out the barrel specifically to make it look like a Panther.
Yeah, because I was like, Panther. The German tanks had shorter barrels.
Well, no, they had decent-sized barrels. It's just the Leopard 1 barrel is too long. Yeah, like in Battle of the
Bulge when Robert Shaw is inspecting the tanks, and he's like, it can be done. Those tanks barrels are way too long.
I find hilarious that they only had actually 1 Sherman tank for the whole movie, which is funny because the amount of Sherman tanks that they had in that movie was quite a deal.
Well, I think that's why they also keep showing it by the perspective of the lead column, because the lead column probably wouldn't have had as many... like Shermans in it. It probably would have been more the British tanks.
True.
Dude, this scene breaks my heart. I hate this scene. With the berets. Why would they drop berets?
See, the problem I have is I know exactly why they would drop berets, and it was because, hey, in case any of your men had... It's a British thing, and it pains me to no end that the British would have done something like this. And they did actually do stuff like this, where they would drop stuff because, like, hey, in case you guys need this for ceremonial or, like...
It got to the point that Germans just felt bad for them, too. The Germans actually were like... Yeah. The Germans started giving them stuff because they're like, dude, this is brutal. They actually felt bad. That's the best story.
That man was a Scotsman, and I know it for a fact.
Oh, dude, so many of these guys are probably Scottish. Oh, that's sad. He did.
That man, I'm 100% sure that guy was in another movie. I can't remember which,
all
though.
these guys were in these movies.
I know.
The dude that's the German in Kelly's Heroes, he is the Wehrmacht commander in Battle of the Bulge. That's
those are leopard ones.
Yeah, those are definitely leopard ones.
Kugelwagen.
Well, that was a Jeep.
No, that was a Kugelwagen.
Was it? It looked like a Jeep.
No, that was a Kugelwagen. It was just it had the stuff.
Dude, they picked the most Aryan looking guy to play that guy.
They really did.
The most Aryan looking guy to play that guy.
So I will say, I that is one of my favorite guns of all time, the Bren.
It's a good gun.
It's not the best gun, but it is a great gun.
You're a great gun.
Thank you. And one of my favorite scenes of all time, because it's so stupid.
Oh my god, this stupid woman.
It's of the Dutch woman, literally the Dutch house owner, literally going, "I'm leaving," and her son is clearly wounded, and she just walks out and goes, "Taxi, taxi."
Well, she's clearly freaking.
Oh yeah, 100 dimensional.
Yeah, like
she is completely demented, and I'm not. I don't want to mean. She gets gunned down, but the funny thing is though is she does like 30 spins and then falls down, like the most dramatic death scene you've ever seen in a movie.
That's what I love about this movie. Is just
the
death scenes are hysterical. Some of the
where it's like it you know what it reminds me of? Almost like Power Rangers, where it's like it's over.
Well, that's
blown.
Oh, there's Lawrence.
Yep, there he is.
Well, that's what I mean though about like the Union of Salvation. It was so good because when you get shot, you're not. It's not that. It's going down.
Yeah, literally, there's scenes where people get shot, and all of a sudden the guy he looks like he's perfectly fine, and all of a sudden just drops dead normal because. Listen, that's how it was.
Well, even think about like in Gods and Generals when they hit with artillery, it like the whole line like blows up in the air.
And there's guys who go up in the air.
It wouldn't happen like that.
Yeah,
it would just annihilate, and you would it would throw you backwards because it's the momentum, but you're not flying in the air.
But if it's just simple rifles and stuff, those bullets you get hit, and then all of a sudden your brain clicks and goes, you're dead, and then you just drop.
Yeah, like it's so stupid.
It's one of the few things about movies that drive me nuts sometimes, because like, oh, boom, you get shot, you fly backwards. It's the classic Hollywood blunder of over dramatized.
But there's some movies it's like you can look the other way, like Gettysburg during Pickett's Charge, where like the columns are marching forward and then the like the guys tumble forward. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But then like Gods in General, dude. Oh, when the artillery blows up and the guys literally, you can see the wires holding them as they get blown apart, and you're like, bro, what?
You don't know why? It's because I feel like the owner of Turner Broadcasting, Ted Turner, did not get to be in that movie.
He's in the deleted. No, he is in the movie.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in the Behind Blue Flag scene.
Oh, he didn't give enough money for a green screen.
He's like, I want to talk to freaking Hood during the. He's like, you Texas boys, thank you so much for doing this. And John Bell Hood's like, I gotta tell you, if you can't play a banjo, you should hold a rifle. And I'm like, can you stop making them so stereotypical Appalachia?
So fun fact, if you don't know, if you never noticed, so the only real reason that Gettysburg was ever made was actually because Ted Turner was actually a big fan.
He's a huge Civil War guy. He loves the Civil War.
Yeah, he was a big historian. He was like, I like it. I like the idea. I'm going to give you the money as long on one condition, which was
I get to be in it.
I get to be in it. And you know what?
Well, he's related. He plays Patton. He plays Patton's uncle.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually a distant relation, too. I think he's related to him.
I think so.
Yeah, there's some relation there.
Probably.
Because he's from Virginia, I think. I think they're all Virginians. This is a great scene.
Yep.
This is based on a true story, too.
Yep.
We cannot take you all.
Love this part. They also picked the most effeminate German man.
Was it with like the guy at my birthday? That was aggressive.
I love that part.
Dude, that was so aggressive for no reason.
What?
Clap!
We'd like to. Different. Well, we'd have to mention on a different time.
Oh, that was horrifying. We should get Josh here for that.
You know what's funny? I was actually thinking about the other day.
Josh was having PTSD from that. Getting yelled at by a German.
A Jew getting yelled at by a German. It's not always a good time.
Dude, that was so... He was so... And I had just gotten off work. I was tired. It was my birthday. This guy was screaming at us.
Yeah, are we doing that again?
What, go there to eat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that place.
Okay. I was thinking mostly just drinking too, because
oh no, dude,
I love the fact that I can get a liter there.
I felt so sick. I didn't even get drunk. I was just so full. Drink a liter was it pomegranate or grapefruit?
Grapefruit.
Oh my god, it was so good, but oh my god, I thought I was gonna die. And then I was talking to no one in the bathroom.
Yeah, because I walked out and and
it was so funny because I was making fun of the Danish, I think.
You were. I remember, because I walked out and I was like, is he making... And I just kept walking because I'm like, I'm just going to keep going.
I was like, these people are so lazy. It's just Irish music.
Oh my god. See, now this is the sad part, but at the same time, it's like, kind of understood.
I think they held Arnhem to the end of the war.
I don't remember. I would have to look at history. I mean, the problem is there's so much history.
Oh no, there's so much
that there's certain bits where it's like I remember here and there, and then we also like we said we didn't prep for this. We just were like, hey, you know what? We're going back and forth. We might as well.
Yeah, they went to the end of the war. Arnhem officially fell to the Allies on April 15th, 1945. This marked the liberation of the city during the closing stages of World War II.
Which, let's be honest, at that point, how much of the city was left?
No, dude, that's nuts.
Like, I don't want to be mean or be that person, but, like, let's be honest, how much of the city was left?
The war would end a month later. Here, lower it, just because I don't want to get copyright striked.
You won't. It's
Dude, I got copyright strike for playing La Victoire et Nous in a video. I got copyright strike. My Marshall series, you remember how I opened it with the La Victoire et Nous playing at the beginning? I got copyrighted for that.
Insane.
I get banged up whenever I do a Sabaton video, which I know I'm going to get banged up for doing that. Also, coming soon, Lady of the Dark, great song.
Cool.
That's a good song, actually. That's also a really cool story. Oh my god, this movie's not even halfway over.
Is it? Oh my god, it's... No,
okay, it is.
I was going to say, it's 2/3 of the way.
How long have we been doing this? This has been going a while.
It has been going for a while.
I don't think we're going to finish the movie with everyone, but...
Oh god, no. This movie...
Yeah, this has been going this is like a 2.5-hour podcast already.
Yeah.
What time, what's the timestamp?
This timestamp is 2 hours.
Yeah, it's almost 2.5 hours because we did like 15 minutes of arguing before the video actually started.
And we've paused and stopped this movie. I think he cracked his spine.
Oh god, dude, that's the pain about being a paratrooper. I actually went to. Fun fact: I've been to Fort. Well, it's not Fort Bragg anymore, is it?
No, it's not. It's what is it? Fort Freedom?
Something like that.
That's dumb. I'm sorry. To most people I know, it's still Fort Bragg. It's
So pretty much Fort Liberty. So
I couldn't remember if it was Fort Liberty or Fort Freedom. It's one of those dumb names.
My friend's uncle was the commandant of Fort Bragg. I'm calling it Bragg. It was Bragg when we went.
Yeah.
Which Fort Bragg, for those of you that don't know, is the United States training facility for our special forces. So Rangers go through there. Green Berets go through there. Our airborne programs through there. So we went there and it was cool because he was able to give us, my scout troop went there, and we actually, did the training. That's actually the first place I ever shot an M4. It was really cool. I was a kid, though. I was young. It was crazy. They let us do this. They put us in these harnesses.
Wait, hold on. Full auto or just
full
semi?
auto?
Sweet.
And I think we did a Browning, too. They let us do a Browning.
30?
I think.
Awesome.
It was so long ago.
It's fun.
But it's in Georgia, and as you know, I'm from New York, so that was a hike to get down there.
Yeah, no, it is.
It was worth it.
It is
so cool. But one of the cool trainings you do is they give you these VR glasses, which this is in the delinquent ages of VR. But it's
so it's the crummy Vera, but it's still
it's so cool though as a kid because they put you in the rig.
Yep.
And you have to do it, and they're like, you have to fall correctly. It'll sense if you fall correctly.
Oh,
so like, some of us, if we fell like this, like with our legs like bent, it would go red because it meant you broke your legs.
Yeah.
So like, it was like scary, and the way I fell, I broke my spine.
Ooh.
Like, I don't know, because you don't actually fall. What you're doing is you're guiding it with your hands, and it's just like, in the VR, you're watching it happen.
See, what's weird is I forget which troop I was part of, but we did one of those
like troop numbers.
I'm not doing troop numbers.
I've been in multiple troops.
These same, but no. So
not because of me, because friends asked me to come back.
I'm not gonna list my reasons why. It's legitimately it was just family reasons.
Well, Sean convinced me to join his troop as a scoutmaster.
See, for me it was I joined I joined my uncle's troop, and then I had joined my other uncle's troop, and I was like, okay, cool.
The first troop I joined was actually just because it was close.
Getting back onto my stuff. No, I could have sworn we did a jump of some sort. It might have been just it was just a it's like test it or whatnot, but I think I did it as more of just not so much of it as a joke, just as it's like this is how you would have jumped and whatnot, and I don't think I did it correctly. I don't think a lot of us did it correctly, just because it's kind of difficult to do it correctly.
Well, we went the next day because the base paid for us to go to what's that thing? It's like an air tube that you go in and it's like free fall.
Oh,
it's like the giant fan. And
it
holds you up.
I know what you're talking about.
The commandant paid for us to go do it.
Yep.
But because I broke my spine in the
virtual
one, I didn't want to do it because I was like, I'm gonna kill myself. I don't want to die. But it was cool. It's cool, dude. Like we learned hand-to-hand fighting. That's why I have never lost a fight, to be completely honest, because I learned what the army does.
See, fun fact. I learned the Mossad stuff instead.
No, dude, I don't mess with Mossad.
The Mossad stuff is funny. So if you ever...
night buttons.
So you target essentially the vitals, which is eyes, crotch, other stuff you don't want targeted. But that was I forget exactly why my troop was doing it. It might have been some random thing, but it was funny because we did it more of as a joke / entertaining thing. But yeah, it was funny and fun times. But getting back to the movie,
John Ratzenberg's on the screen.
Yeah.
Pixar, obviously. Actually, Disney did exist in the 70s, so they just haven't signed him up yet. They just haven't grabbed him yet.
Not yet. But no, so this is one of my favorite parts because they bring up the stuff and it shows them essentially getting stuck in traffic, which to some extent, yeah, they did. Oh, man.
I mean, it's crazy that they did this with boats, and also a lot of them didn't have
what's
oars.
Funny is that's the funny thing. They actually did use almost the same exact boats that they would have used.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they used almost the exact same.
I think one of them were actually from.
And they literally told them, they were like, guys, these are the exact same stuff. You guys have to use your butts of your stocks because that's all you would have.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because
And
no one thought back then to preserve anything. No one thought it's war.
It was the same thing with Vietnam. The same with a lot of wars. Why would you hold on to the stuff that to us it's junk now, but 100 years from now it could be historical reference.
Look at Gettysburg. The Battlefield Trust are doing everything in their power to make it look the way it did in 1863. Which they're doing a great job. They just got to get rid of those freaking beavers on Little Round Top.
Well, to be fair,
you can't.
Well, no, they can. It's just it's going to cost a lot of money. So if you don't know, there's only there's only a handful of people in America that can actually hunt legally beavers.
Well, and the state of
it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, the state of Pennsylvania also doesn't want them killing them because they're an endangered species, I think, in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's flooded Bloody Run.
Yeah, and it's flooded historical sites where it's like, guys, we get there, endangered, but they need to not be there.
When we drove by that, dude, have you ever seen it that flooded?
Not in a long time.
Crazy. Well, those guys walk through that.
Yeah. Well, we also, to be fair, we also did the walk. And
no, don't start with that.
I know.
Don't start with that. And you and my brother tried to gaslight me and say it was my idea. You freaking jerks.
I didn't gaslight anybody.
You're the one that said to do this. I'm like, I said take the road. And you're like, no, you said to do it this way. I'm like, you're the two jackasses that decided to walk through the dirt.
I didn't want to do any of it.
I'm just very happy.
I just was over there going, okay, I'm following these two guys.
I'm just very happy that of the three of us, my brother was the one whose shoes got ruined. Because he was the one that did force us to do it.
He was the one that specifically was like, guys, let's do this. And I'm like, I didn't say anything because I'm just like, whatever. I've done plenty of hikes.
And then I started gaslighting my brother-in-law.
Who's not even in the country. It's like, why would you do this? Why would you do this to us?
The best was when my sister started texting me and be like, leave him alone. I love you. I love you both. Just so you know. Because I know you're watching this.
So, what I find funny is...
Dude, this is horrifying.
I know.
This is actually horrifying. So pretty much the fact that the Germans had a very strong hold on the bridge in Eindhoven, I think.
Yep.
They had to use boats to outflank them. But that meant pretty much an open river on these tiny little... They're not even pontoon boats. These are like...
These are literally... Honestly,
they're rowboats. They're literally
they're
little
not
collapsibles.
Even, like, they're collapsible rowboats. And honestly, it's... Like, when they made the movie, they actually realized how terrifyingly awful these boats were. Like, they're just... They're the worst...
fabric and wood. That's all they are.
Yeah, they're being held up by little bits, and... Honestly, it's not a good idea to have. Whoever actually, props. The guys who actually did this stuff had the biggest steel balls in the world. I don't want to say anything less because
dude, it's crazy, man. It honestly,
it's literally
it's like Pickett's charge. It's like, dude, to do
honestly,
this,
it was the equivalent. To me, it honestly is the equivalent of Pickett's charge of trying to go over a actual decent sized river in this flimsy little boat, while at the same time with no cover whatsoever. Yeah, the cannons are providing some cover occasionally.
Bro, oh my god.
But at the same time, one good MG strafe, you're dead.
Could you imagine? And and that's another cool thing, and I like that they do that. You can see the shines from the German helmets and guns.
Yep.
That's something that CGI never does.
And that's the other thing. They only do, like there's, like, maybe 4 guys.
Jesus Christ.
It's, like, maybe 4 guys in each boat that actually have oars.
Everyone also using their rifles.
Rifles or their hands. They're using whatever they can to actually get across. And there's a bit where Robert Redford's character is actually... He's doing the Hail Mary.
Yeah, he did that.
And that was so that they could keep up pace.
Yeah, it was the cadence.
It was the cadence, and it was just so that they could actually maintain some form of, like, row.
I honestly need to say this because I know a lot of you guys that do watch these are in this generation. For those of you that are veterans that watch this, thank you so much because this is wild. The stuff that you guys did, like, it's. And I know I probably have none that were here or this generation. I know I definitely have more Vietnam and Korea veterans.
Yeah.
But, like, oh my god, dude. Like, can you imagine? Like, I think the things our poor soldiers do today are terrible. Like, this is nuts. Especially because the Germans had some of the best weapons on the other side of that river.
This was also different. I would say this was a different time period. This was a force on force where you had 2 equal forces equivalent to each other, and that's terrifying to be like, okay,
well, and to be the one that is on the lower end of the stick, like these guys are right now.
No, like, to be on force is it's terrifying because there's a 50-50 you die, whereas, like, I would say more modern, there's a higher chance you're gonna survive. Let's be honest. Like,
oh
yeah.
My god, dude.
These guys,
John Ratzenberger's dead. I didn't realize he gets killed.
I forgot that too. I'm not gonna lie. But to be fair, this movie's also 3 hours long,
We love
and
you, John Ratzenberger.
we do love you.
Is he dead?
No, he's alive.
Yeah, he's definitely still alive, right?
He's 100% alive.
I need to make sure he's okay. I need to make sure
Do we need to call up Pixar and be like, yo?
Call up Pixar someone. I need to know John Ratzenberg's okay. He's 77. Oh, he's from Connecticut? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, he's alive. He's alive. I feel better now. Bro, this is nuts.
You know what's funny? I actually know John Ratzenberg, not from Pixar, but actually from he did some sort of TV
I
show.
think he was in Taxi.
No, it wasn't for Taxi. I think it was.
Isn't that the movie? Oh, Cheers. He's in Cheers.
Yeah, Cheers. Cheers is the one everybody knows your name. But yeah, I love this part.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's such a good song. I haven't actually listened to that song in so long.
I know. I think it's been quite a few years since.
I think at camp was the last time I heard it. Our old boss used to play it all the time. That was camp though, where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is nuts.
And what kills me the most is they had no, like, protection.
Oh no,
like there's no body armor. They have helmets. Congrats, you have a helmet.
Well, the helmets aren't even for bullets. The helmets were made for shrapnel.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. Up until even during World War I.
The only thing that stopped, like the helmet stopped, was shrapnel and maybe ricochets. I say with a very blunt.
In World War I, the Adrian helmet, the one I have in my room, that was actually considered the best helmet. The only reason the Stahlhelm survived, like the Germans, was no, it's fine. The only reason the German helmet though was the one that
that's the same 76. I'm not gonna lie, that's the same one.
Our armed forces today wear the Stahlhelm.
Yeah,
it's just an American version of it, but it's literally the same style helmet.
Yeah,
it's just because it protects the ears and everything, so it saves people from the blast. Helmets were not really meant for protect. That's why in Saving Private Ryan, when the helmet gets shot, everyone's like shocked. They're like, "Oh, geez,"
yeah,
because it was more for
well, to be fair,
shrapnel.
So, I know someone who has a Mauser, an 8mm Mauser, and he also has a 308 Mauser as well. Well, it was rechambered into 308, but the 8mm, it's very, very good at armor penetration.
Well, the Mauser
and
is a very good weapon.
What's funny is I've seen tests where they've taken the Wunderwaffe 8mm and the normal 8mm, and honestly, the normal 8mm, it penetrates very deeply into amount of armor.
Well, that was an edge, that the Spanish had in the Spanish-American War, was because they were armed with Mausers.
Yeah.
And they were Spanish Mausers, but they were built on the same basic design as the German Mauser.
Yeah.
And they were crazy accurate and powerful. And that was something that the Americans were actually afraid of going into the war, because they were like, these are good guns.
Yeah, no, the Mauser was a very well made gun. I'm not gonna lie. The downside for the Germans was that they mostly had the bolt actions.
Well, this is the end of that era.
Yeah,
this is with semi-automatic
and that's the
rifles.
thing. Whereas you're facing the M1 Grand versus the Mauser. Who wins? Unfortunately, the M1 Grand, and it's mostly just because it comes down to semi-automatic. It's like if you miss with the one Mauser shot, guess what? The M1 Grand, it's semi-automatic. You can fire another round or two. Before that guy might have the capability to.
I'm sorry. This is such a good
I know it is a good soundtrack. My God, they're only 18 kilometers from Annam. So one. Which is funny because they actually do get stopped.
Because the entire armor division is now in Arnhem.
Yeah. And let's be honest, Arnhem is essentially flattened.
It is so sad, though, looking at this, to think how destroyed these cities got.
Yeah.
Because, even, like...
Well, to be fair, even at the beginning of the war, like when they... I forget what the recall to the bombers that flew over Holland and whatnot, it never reached them. And it ended up flattening a lot of the major cities. And it's like, guys, they learned their lessons.
This is such though, like, and it's so. I think about the Blitz a lot, and I think about good old King Edward the who was it? Was it Edward the Eighth, King George the Sixth's brother, the one that was abdicated?
Because
he married a hooer.
Your words, not mine.
Factual.
Yeah.
She was getting frisky with Joachim von Ribbentrop, but no, it's terrible because he was the one that said to bomb London. He's like, if you bomb London, they'll surrender. And the royal family, which I'm probably now going to get visited by what are they? MI6. Well, you can't talk about the royal family like that.
Well, yeah, since we don't live in England, it would be the MI6, but or is it the MI5?
I think it's MI5. I don't care. I really don't care.
MI6, MI5.
And honestly, shame on the current king, because he was apparently really close with Edward, and Edward directly told the Germans to bomb London. He legitimately said, if you bomb London, they'll lose the will to fight.
I mean, which is funny because that never actually ended up happening because they bombed London a lot. And
yeah, but you know why? Because in his mentality, he was thinking by World War I standards.
Yeah.
No capital was attacked in World War One.
True.
They got close to Paris,
but
they never attacked it.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. It's the like World War, like the 20th century, the destruction you see. Like, you talk about Sherman's March to the Sea and the Order of Total War and the Civil War. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's very bad.
But it was different.
Dude, yeah, that was like purposely bad. This is just by
orders of magnitude more.
Yeah, like this is just by being caught in the fight. Oh, that sucks.
Oof.
Frost just got shot in the knee. Well, shrapnel in the knee.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say.
Here, stop.
And this is the part where the British stop for a tea.
This interaction was also more violent. He actually threatened to shoot them.
Not only threatened, he actually had his gun out and he was ready to shoot it. He literally was like, "I will kill you."
Yeah, he literally.
And the British literally closed the hatch and was like, "I'm not getting shot."
Yeah, literally, like it was a very hostile situation.
Yeah, the Americans and the British were not. We didn't see eye to eye on many levels during this interaction.
Well, and I think he even said something like.
And what's funny, what's true though is the British and the Americans, we didn't see eye to eye on many aspects because it was too different. It was
because when the British found out what we were doing to the German prisoners at D-Day, they got angry. They thought it was inhumane, and we're like, well, what are we supposed to do with them?
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
them with us?
Which is funny because I'm not gonna lie, the British saying what we did to the Germans was awful, while at the same time the British and the French, what they did to the Germans was not inhumane.
Oh, let's mix the two together. What the Canadians did. That's right, Canada. We're coming after you now. You guys try to act like you're these sweet, peaceful people to the north of us. You are the worst when it comes to war.
Literally, the reason why Geneva Convention has multiple articles and literally sections dedicated solely to you and you only.
Your little rehabilitation.
You cannot do this because
your little rehabilitation during the Commonwealth. Not all of us have forgotten what you've done.
It's like, oh, throw a can of food, see what happens. Okay, cool. They gather around it. Throw a grenade next, see what happens. You psychopaths.
That's freaking nuts, dude. Canadians were, and the Canadians, they were the only ones that scared the Germans during D-Day.
Yeah,
like, we're gonna run. We're gonna leave.
It's like, oh, who are they? Canadians. Yeah, we're gonna just surrender now to the Americans or the British. Why? Because they're not Canadian. Oh, man. Well, it's one of the parts of the movies I actually always forget exists. It's one of the parts where Frost is talking with his second in command, and it's pretty brutal. I'm not gonna lie. They both look like they've been through actual hell and whatnot, and his second in command essentially dies on the spot. It's not the best scene. Harry. It is not a pretty pretty scene, and it's meant to reflect essentially saying, hey, war's bad and whatnot. And then it cuts away to a Leopard 1 going through a building because there's no, German tanks left from World War One, which is not actually entirely true. There was actually a good amount of German tanks that were sent to other countries, and specifically like out in the Middle East. Although, to be fair, a lot of the Middle East countries actually ended up using the German tanks. They took the tank part, the bottom off, and they just used the turret as essentially a, and they put it in a embarkment. I was talking about how the German, there was no German tanks left at the same time, but at the same time, to be fair, there was no German tanks that was refurbished during this time period, which is funny because there was actually a good amount of German tanks that were sent to the Middle East, and the Middle East actually ended up keeping them up until modern day and modern era.
I say the Germans made good things. Like their technology was very good.
It was good for.
It was good for what they had.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, the Sherman was fantastic. And it's like, oh, the only reason why the Sherman was good was because it was, the Germans would take out 2, but the Americans would send 3 or 4. It's
it was the same.
No.
If you really think about it, it was the same reason we were able to win the Civil War as quickly as we did. We just overwhelmed them with our technology.
To be fair, the Sherman was also good in general. The first one, initial one was a 75 millimeter. It wasn't as good as some of the German ones. But guess what? The moment we upgraded to the 76 or even other variants, guess what? We made 20 of them. And guess what?
I'm sorry to divert. It has always annoyed me that he just wears regular pants and not riding pants.
Yes.
I don't know why it bothers me. It's just so weird. Especially being he is SS.
I know.
I'm why are you you look like a desk worker?
It also kills me because his aide de camp.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but he is the most effeminate aide de camp of a Nazi I've ever seen in my life. And they really wouldn't have gone for that. I'm not being mean. It's just they wouldn't have.
You're right. But I love this part. God bless you, Marshal Montgomery.
I love this part as well. Yeah, you're right. God bless Field Marshal Montgomery in his awful accent. It jumps out.
Do you think Gene Hackman actually jumped out of his plane, or do you think he
I low-key want to just assume that Gene Hackman actually jumped out of a plane
while doing this Polish accent.
Polish accent? You mean god-awful accent?
Let him live his life. He's living his best life. This is brutal, because this is when they're lighting them up.
Oh. Oh.
God, dude.
Awful. Oh.
Imagine not being... Oh, God.
Imagine just falling to the ground. That's actually against the Geneva Convention.
I don't think at this point the Germans really cared anymore.
Oh, God, no. No one cared. Let's be honest. The Geneva Convention only matters if you lose.
Well, look at what's going on right now.
Like I said,
it's literally
the
a war of
Geneva
aggression.
Convention only matters if you lose.
It's literally what's happening in Russia is a war of aggression, which is not even Geneva Convention. That's the UN Charter. And they still have a seat in the Security Council. Bruh. We live in a clown world. We live in a clown world.
It is hilarious and amazing that I live in the world that I live in. I'm not going to say exactly what I'm talking about, but I just find it all hilariously amusing.
We live in a world where a country is proactively invading another country, and that country that is invading the other country holds a seat on the legislative body that is supposed to stop that action from happening.
Or is also on the fact is that aren't they on the women's rights?
No, that's Iran.
Oh yeah, in Saudi Arabia.
And so yeah, all the Muslim countries, the women's suffrage or something committee.
Yeah,
Dude, the UN, Jesus.
I think
something else.
I don't want to be mean or go off track, but the UN is kind of a joke at this point in my life.
Well, it's the same failures as the League of Nations. It's you can just keep writing letters.
I honestly I view this as the second League of Nations.
It is the second League
of
Nations.
Whereas, like, yes, there was the initial beginnings. It was hopes and dreams and actual ambitions to be different.
Well, because what it used to be was each country would send like a brigade or something to serve as the UN's military, peacekeepers.
And they never did that.
Yeah, like Siege of Jadotville, which was BS. Those poor guys got eviscerated.
Oh, Jadotville? Yeah.
Yeah, those poor guys who did the right thing. Yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, Siege of Jadotville was during the Congo crisis. Pretty much what happened was these Irish soldiers, as you know I'm Irish, so I take great offense to what happens. They pretty much held off against a Congolese militant group being led by former FFL, French Foreign Legion soldiers. They held off for like a week against these guys, trained fighters. The Irish military, by the way, never been engaged in an actual war, held off against these guys, and the commander of the Irish soldiers decided, instead of my men getting massacred, I'm going to surrender and save their lives.
Don't forget they were also using outdated weapons.
Yeah, they were using World War II guns.
Yeah.
And not like MP40s or Tommy guns. They were using like Enfields and Mausers.
Yeah, no, they were seriously using like outdated weapons, and it's like, guys, this isn't a joke anymore. This is legitimate war.
And the UN eviscerated them.
Yeah,
they made them look like cowards. They were traitors.
I think that's one of the reasons why I absolutely despise the UN. So,
yeah, I have such a bad
so if anybody actually knows me, I am a Scottish. I'm Acadian. I'm Norwegian, and other things. Which, if you don't know Acadian, it essentially you're French, Irish, and a little bit of English.
He's an Irish English Creole.
Kind of, but regardless, there's majority of Scottish, Irish, Norwegian, and other things. And the Siege of Jadotville absolutely infuriates me because the fact is that the UN would actually say, hey, why did you do such a horrible, job? It's like you said.
It would have literally been like Churchill waiting at Dover as the soldiers came in from Dunkirk and being like, you effed up. Why did you screw up?
Yeah.
That's literally what it would be like.
And it's absolutely infuriating to me
disgusting.
On no end. And it's just,
It would have been like if Lee at the end of Pickett's charge was like, you all screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, look in the mirror. Like, also, the president of the UN got killed.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Should have been better.
The Congo was, probably should just, abandon that. The Congo, to this day, is still not even united. The Congo, you have the Democratic People's Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Congo.
This is also the part that I also find amusing where...
They're firing on their own men.
Yeah, and the British... the guy who swims across... Which, so, fun fact, this scene is actually portrayed in Band of Brothers as well.
Yeah, when they save them. We can't swim. I believe it was the Polish that did do it, though. Yeah. I don't think it was the 101st. I think they helped, but I think the
101st helped because the Polish, I don't think had the. I don't know.
I don't think they had enough guys.
I don't know if guys and resources. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the Americans had to actually help them. But regardless of what actually happened, it was Market Garden was just a
Market Garden
awful.
It was a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And you know what? The BS way Monty got away from it. It was 90% successful. No, it's unsuccessful then.
Yeah.
If a mission is not 100% successful, it is not successful. You did not enter the Ruhr Valley. You did not take the German industrial land. You did not take the Rhineland. You failed.
Yeah.
And honestly, had the Battle of the Bulge not happened, Patton would have made it all the way to Berlin before the Russians.
I don't want to be mean about it, but yeah. But hey, that's
Do you know
just
who was in Patton's army?
who
Mel Brooks.
wasn't
He was a mechanic in his army. Fun fact.
Well, Walt was Disney was also a wasn't he just a truck driver, or was he?
No, that was World War One. Walt
Okay.
Disney, and he got to Europe. He was able to lie about his age. He falsified his birth certificate, so he didn't need his parents' permission.
Gotcha.
But what happened was he falsified it to join the Red Cross. So he actually, I believe, wore a British uniform. He served in the Red Cross. And fun fact, he was actually almost executed because for treason. Because what happened was he had been left alone in his truck after it broke down for like 3 nights in the dead of winter. And he was freezing because the rule was you had 2 drivers. You had the driver and the assistant. The assistant's job was if the truck broke down, they would go back to Paris to get help to come repair the truck. So they brought Walt to a court-martial, and at the court-martial, it was discovered that Walt had been trapped there for almost 4 days. And everyone was like, well, why were you trapped there for 4 days? Where was your assistant? They found out the assistant went to a nearby village, got drunk, and was sleeping in a brothel.
Oh, what a dope.
So Walt was given an honorable discharge, and the other guy, I'm pretty sure, got shot. But Walt was honorably discharged from the army. I think that was in 1918.
Good for him.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't know. Walt also didn't really see a lot because there's a story about Robert Sherman, the brother to Richard Sherman, who just passed.
Yeah.
He was at the discovery of Dachau.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, the Sherman brothers are Jewish. So Robert was really affected by it, and he knew that Walt was in the Red Cross during World War One. Walt pretty much was a delivery guy, though. Walt didn't serve in a medical capacity, most of it, because the war was already over.
Yeah.
So Robert would try to talk to Walt about what he saw at Dachau, and Walt would be like, what?
It's like, the fuck? But yeah, no, man.
Is that battle? Yeah, it's a fun little Walt Disney facts. A lot of people don't know. It's actually kind of sad.
There's a lot of sad things, moments about that whole situation. Oh man, this movie's long as
This is a long movie, dude.
I always forget how long this movie is.
Well, honestly, we should probably cut this now.
Probably, because I mean, to be
this
fair,
is gonna be like a 3.5 hour podcast.
to be fair, this movie's also essentially coming to an end. Where
Yeah, the movie's over. They're surrendering.
Yeah.
It's done.
The British are about to surrender, and most of the situation, they know that they've lost.
Yeah.
Like-
All right. Well, so this is gonna be the end of this episode. We'll have Lady in the Dark up this week. Also, I know we've taken a pause from our Gettysburg series. I just, try new things. We've been doing a lot of stuff with the federal government lately. I think it's kind of interesting. And some of you seem to like that, so we might just stay with that for a bit. There's a lot of stuff in the Gettysburg set, but just one at a time. We're going to start bringing the podcast back more often.
Which reminds me, I need to send you all those Gettysburg photos. I
Yeah,
still
you
have
do.
a lot of
Shut
them.
up. You never sent them to me. But thank you so much for joining us today. Nick, you have anything to say?
No. I mean, please don't hold me to, the highest expectations, guys. I'm trying to remember and recite this stuff from memory. A lot of my historical facts may not be 100% accurate. If they're not, forgive me. I'm not going to be 100% accurate. I try to look up as much as the facts as possible. However, there's some things where it's going to be as off the top of my memory, guys. I'm also a lot of times we do these podcasts
On the whim.
and we are clearly engaged in
I had 2 classes.
in a couple classes. I've clearly had at least more than 1 or 2.
Yeah, you've been very more than I have.
To be fair, though, we watch these movies with listen, I'm not gonna lie. I understand the situations of these movies. I do have some words for these movies and for the guys who actually did sacrifice their lives. I'm not saying that they sacrificed their lives for nothing. I honestly actually have some semblance of like, you know, respect for them. We try and make some light of some of the situations because obviously the movies themselves, sometimes they go overboard and they go a little bit hilarious because of the way that, you know, characters are or characters die because it's a movie. It calm down.
We've literally finished the movie.
Yeah.
We literally just finished the movie.
But for the most part, though, for the actual events and for the people who actually did, you know, who are being portrayed in the movie, they actually are, honestly, for the most part, actual heroes and whatnot, regardless of whether or not we view them as such.
Captain America, Iron Man, they're
guys,
fun characters.
But
they're not real heroes.
Yeah,
these guys,
they're characters.
They literally ran.
Like as much as I might joke about the British and whatnot, they have the most.
The longest.
They held out the longest, and they are some of the most insane, craziest, like people I've known, and I honestly do respect them for that. Like they have some of the most honest and valorous people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And I do give props for them and for the people that they portrayed.
Yeah. But that is true. You know, we gotta remember these guys. These guys, it's, you know, D-Day. You go to Point to Hawk and you see what those guys had to go through. You know, getting freaking potato mashers thrown down on them as they were climbing.
Like legitimately serious. There's scenes where it's like, oh, the MG42 wipes out these guys and the guys drop dead.
But that's real. That happened.
That's real. That's happened, and
you know, we mentioned All Quiet on the Western Front earlier. You know, you in World War I, you went over that trench. You knew there was a very good chance you weren't coming back.
You go over that trench, you know for a fact that you forfeit your life.
These dudes went through a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, we owe them a lot.
And they've given us the life that we have today, and respect for them for that.
Yeah. So please, you know, remember that when you're watching this. All the movies we mentioned today, highly suggest you see them. They're great movies. You know, keep these guys' memories alive. You know, people like Frost, who coolly ran across the Germans, and we will see you in the next one.
Yep.